And then her
all
son
right.
had passed, so she didn't come on the day that we initially
Is this
planned
going?
it, but she
There
had
we
been
go.
filed, and I didn't even know you were involved.
All
I
right,
had
we
no
are
idea how-
live. Okay, and I even figured out how to do live on Facebook. Facebook totally mangled us last
Hurt us bad.
on Wednesday. We had Celeste on and Ricky on, and couldn't get the comments.
Are we
But
live right now?
we're live right now.
Hey guys, welcome to Tooele County's greatest podcast on the planet.
Great. Welcome to Political Head Trauma, where if Head Trauma had a podcast. Tonight we have Goud Maragani on. He's gonna Maragani. Is that correct?
You guys just say Goud.
Goud.
What is your last name though?
It's Maragani.
Maragani.
Right.
My last name is Ray Bonnie, and no one pronounces it correctly, and I just quit correcting them because I don't blame them. It looks like Raban, and I just appreciate them saying it. It's like, okay, about Holly works. Holly works.
Yeah. Now Goud is a frequent flyer on our show. He we first met you when you ran for Salt Lake County Clerk, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's
Yep.
right.
And you're a great guy to have come on and talk to. You've got a broad insight that you bring, and you're not afraid to dig into the dirt and take the fight to Salt Lake County. And we like that. We like a bold individual that does that.
For me, I met you when you first came on our show because you were on David and Jared's show a couple times, and I was just like blown away because you're just so dead on, and it's so rare now to hear people just speak truth and thoughtful truth about just the restrooms thing, for example. I was so happy to hear a man standing up for my daughter's rights. And I think it's unbelievable that gets such great praise nowadays, because that should just be normal. We should all be standing up and thinking about the safety of our girls, first and foremost. But I applauded you because, it's nice. It's nice. I'm looking for men who are willing to defend and not stay out of the argument because, well, I'm not a woman. I can't say.
Yeah.
No, stand up for girls.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I wish more men would stand up. I saw all the men at the Delta Center the other day celebrating the hockey team coming, and I just thought, if more of you would have shown up when HB 257 was being debated, we would have gotten men banned from women's locker rooms, no exceptions, and bathrooms as well. So
why don't men show up for that?
Hey, this is what we were talking about today. I told him today. Yesterday, the NFL draft had 230,000 people there. Yeah. 230,000. And we can't even get 50 to the Capitol for a bill like that.
Yeah.
That blows my mind that there are so many men willing to stand up for their draft pick and for their NFL team, but they're blissfully ignorant when it comes to politics, or they're sitting back and just saying, not my fight. And one day it will be your fight, and one day it's going to be your daughter, and one day it's going to be your son. And it's like, oh, now you're shocked. Now you're going to stand up. And by then you're so overheated in anger that the reasonable conversations are over. Now it's all anger, and we need that not to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I wish more people would stand up. I think we've had a lot of people who will step forward. I will say it overwhelmingly tends to be women.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I saw that draft, how many people were there too, and I thought the same thing. Like,
you did.
Could some of you show up to testify for a bill?
Right. Or show up to the voting booth in Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, hey. Detroit could change the polls. I mean, yeah, it's a slap in the face when you see a Delta Center full of men celebrating hockey. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And I love sports. Don't get me wrong. I love sports. I love the NFL. That's why I watch the draft. But there are a lot standing up in our party, which I'm really proud of, because I don't know what's happening on the left right now. We've talked about that, and we can go into that more, but we're literally watching them meet their own. And it's crazy. It's a crazy time to be a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. I mean, literally, the show we're seeing right now in real life before us is terrifying.
Yeah, one of the things I'm kind of been picking up on is I think people want less of the tribalism. and more of kind of working on issues together to find solutions. And there's some areas where I agree. We won't agree with the Democrats on bathrooms, locker rooms, sports. But there are other issues where I think we probably agree with them on. Transparency is a big one that I've found, where actually the Democrats in Utah are very pro-transparency. And I like
they're
that.
pro-border too. This is the first time in the history of the United States they've agreed on an issue, and it's the border coming up from both sides, which is very refreshing because they see the effects now. But what it took sending people to these blue states to make them go, whoa, 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 whoa.
Right.
Now we know what Texas was freaking out about.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good time. I do think that everyone wants to see a little bit of this political fracturing slowed down a little bit. We've lost the middle on politics. Right now, it's either all in on the far right or all in on the far left, and it's getting scary. But
you're
how
seeing
how can we not have that when we've kind of flipped our tax system upside down and flipped the way our nation and our states and our local townships are ran, where the people pay taxes all the way up to the top, and then the top uses them to bribe the middle to abuse the bottom. Whereas the tax flow should be from me to my city, from my city to my county, from my county to the state up. And that way it gives me a bigger voice then. But right now I get, they point a gun at me once a year, and then they don't even tell me how much I owe. I've got to go figure that out just so that they can have another.
And heaven forbid you're late.
Yeah, well,
heaven forbid they're late getting you your money back.
They want another point of fear on you. And maybe they don't. Maybe that's not an intention, but that's what it feels like. That's the outcome.
I've been finding, I think that a lot of this is where we're too focused on personalities and individuals, and a lot of elected officials, they expect this 100% loyalty to them,
right?
Instead of focusing on policy. When you focus on policy, I think what you'll find is, I can work with some people on some policies where we agree, and then we're going to when we disagree, we won't work together.
Right.
And then when we agree again, we can work together. And I think that type of a system works better. And I hope maybe we'll start moving more towards that.
I can defend Donald Trump all day long based on policy. And I can disagree with people on a number of things, his personality they don't like, or they don't like this or that. I'm not defending any of that. It's not my place to. But when it comes to policy and what we actually saw get in place, it was healthy for our country. And it felt like, wow, we're going in the right direction. And I think people are so running to their sides, especially where people are getting less apt to do that, is when they see their side go too far, like the left. 1 minute they're saying, we love everybody and we're not racial and we want women's lib and all of this. But at the same time, now they have to defend the same people who are threatening or prohibiting Jewish people from going to class. And they're like, okay, now what do we do? Because this is a religious group. And our side is, if you put a Black American in their place, a woman, a gay woman or man, you would have the left coming in, right? A trans woman, they would come in like tanks and guns blazing for this group. But because it's Jewish kids, where are they? And they have to stay silent, or they've got to join their group. And it's like, it's out of control now.
Yeah,
so people can't run to their corners because they're not allegiant to their corners.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody has a problem with people protesting peacefully and making their point, right? I don't either side, whatever side you're on. But then when you're doing that, when you're blocking kids from going to class, when you're taking it too far, that's when we have a problem.
They're there.
You okay?
I know. I tried locking my chair and I bumped it down. I wanted to sit lower.
That's the truth about Jared. He's actually 4'9".
I'm a midget.
Can we say that word?
Midget?
Yeah.
Is that a no-no word
Probably.
now? Oh, they're taking everything away from me.
The good old days. Good old days.
taking everything
Thank you
away
all for
from me.
joining us. This show, you guys, this has been a big lead up to convention, which happens tomorrow. So state delegates who are tuning in, I hope to see you bright and early. We can credential at 7 a.m. and you'll park downtown. And there's a lot of parking options. You should have gotten an email that explains parking. And our first vote for Tooele County is at 8 a.m. So we will be voting on school board. This race is so important. So please get there on time. Please get there, bring food and snacks and maybe water. They will have concessions there at the Salt Palace, but if you've been there before, you know this can be a really long day. Lines can get long, and just be prepared for that. And come ready to meet these candidates that maybe you missed. Candidates pay a lot of money to the party for this fundraising opportunity for our party, for the state party, to have their booths, and you'll get to meet with everyone. If you haven't met the governor yet, he'll be there. I believe that Celeste will be there, as well as John Curtis, who missed our convention due to the vote happening in DC.
Yeah. All right, enough with the boring convention talk. Oh,
Hey, I'm just saying.
if you need
this is our
dental
last
work
show
done, play
before
that, go in, sit down,
convention.
get drilled on. You'll be asleep through it all.
So that's why we're doing a show that is, we have been focusing so much on candidates and issues with candidates, and we kind of want to get into the news of the day and talk with Goud, because it's exciting that he came all the way out here.
Here's what I want to hear about. So we had Sylvia Fisk on. She was running for governor, and she mentioned that you and her had been named in a what would be called outside of Utah SLAPP lawsuit. So I want to dig in on that. It's a lawsuit that was brought by Amy Winder Newton, who is a part of Cox's tent, I guess. I don't know what to.
She's his director of families for the state.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's an elected Salt Lake County Council member.
Yes, and she brought a lawsuit against you. Well, okay, let's go back even further. So first of all, she did some stuff that pulled the log cabin Republicans away from Utah, which took gay conservative support away from Utah, which you guys have started a new organization, but that leaves you with not a national outreach. I mean, it took some voice away, which I want to go into that. That part makes me angry, because you're a subgroup of a subgroup of a subgroup. You're a tiny, minuscule group. And to pull the national support away, I think it's awful, because you guys should have a voice. You guys should be able to get support for political runs. You should be able to do that.
The party should be highlighting you too, because you are the stereotypical not Republican. The log cabin Republicans, to me, it was the greatest thing on the planet, because it showed that gay people love liberty. They love freedom. They love small government, and they aren't stereotypical. You just assume someone is something. And I love that they created a group that was in your face to the left to say, stop telling me who I am. Quit labeling me. I believe in values and family and freedom above all else. So I thought that was incredible. And to have it gone from Utah. Can you explain how that happened?
Yeah, that's actually, so to go back to the links with Sylvia, because Sylvia was a member of the Utah Log Cabin Republicans. And so she got a front row seat as problems started to pop up. And the main one is, last summer, I was told by national leadership that 17 elected Republicans from Utah contacted them and complained about me as the leader and then our messaging. And they only named two people. They named Amy Winder Newton and then Senator Todd Weiler and they wouldn't name the other 15. So eventually where that led is they ended up dissolving our local chapter, and we weren't able to get more information about they wouldn't tell us why.
So
did they tell you the complaints?
No, they didn't give us any specifics on the complaints.
Did they give you the opportunity to maybe step down and keep the the chapter open or anything? It was like,
No.
nope, we're dissolving you.
We were just suddenly dissolved.
That's
And
unbelievable.
yeah, what's crazy about it is I was elected the president in November of 22. At that time, it was kind of like a moribund organization. It hadn't been meeting regularly. The leadership team was gone. We put the whole thing.
Would you reach over and close that window? Yeah. Okay.
Fast fun.
I know someone out there's got to show off their engine. I don't blame them.
We had that doesn't happen.
They're really
in the
badass.
gay community a
They
lot.
just wanted you to know.
I know.
I had gotten a new leadership team in. They spent hours and hours of their personal time building it, growing our group, and we were involved in policy making. And so to have elected officials, they disagreed with us on our tactics. And so instead of just, because the answer to this is if you think we say something you don't agree with it, is you have a much bigger megaphone, you should go and speak publicly, right? Instead, what they did is I think they abused their power, they abused their public positions, and they went and they contacted the national group. In October, they suddenly just dissolved our chapter. And when we tried to get more guidance about it, we weren't able to get any guidance. They sent us a letter, but the letter was very vague and we weren't able to get more details. So then,
Hi, Mom.
after that, we actually had a meeting with one of their national board members, and he didn't even know that we had been dissolved.
Really?
Yeah, like that's how.
Did you call that
sudden.
meeting with him and just?
We had it already set up because he was going to.
He shows up to the meeting, walks in, shakes your hand. Goud, how's it going? How's my log cabin Republicans in Utah doing? And you're like, you didn't hear?
You know?
Yeah, we got dissolved. He's like, I haven't heard anything about this. This is totally unusual. He's like, I hadn't even heard about any. He said typically when a chapter gets dissolved, it's because there's like a sex scandal or something. But this is Utah. There wasn't anything like that. There were no scandals. No scandals. Nothing exciting.
You sure no scandals?
I'm.
That's crazy.
It sends flashbacks to me of how your average Republican feels about the Republican Party. Like there's the Republican Party comes out and says, this is what we're fighting for, and then goes back in their room and lights up their cigars and then does big government stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And so that happened. I also, at that same time, and Holly, I think you're on the state central committee, right?
Yeah.
I had proposed to censure Amy Winder Newton because she got the endorsement of Equality Utah, and she helped them. And so, in case people don't know, Equality Utah is a left-wing anti-family group that promotes the transing of children. They promote giving your children pornographic books in schools. They promote boys playing girls' sports.
And they have a
boys
lot
using
of
girls'
money.
locker rooms. Yeah,
and
a lot of money.
Influence in Utah politics.
Yeah, so she helped them raise $45,000 that will be used to help try to defeat conservative Republicans, and she got their endorsement. And to get their endorsement, you have to agree with their policies that they promote.
Is it this recent endorsement? Is she up for re-election right now?
This was in 22.
Okay, when she was running for the Salt Lake County
Council. Yeah.
Did they endorse her when she ran for governor?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Curious.
So I did that, and then I went to work at my job. They actually silenced me and told me, if you tweet about Equality Utah, talk about Equality Utah, talk about Troy Williams, your job is at risk.
What?
So then I couldn't actually defend the censure motion. I ended up having to withdraw it, but Sylvia was there when all of that happened. And so she started a citizens committee, and the citizens committee started asking Amy questions about her role in getting us canceled, her relationship with Troy Williams, like all these types of things. And so eventually where that led is that in late December, Amy's already involved in a lawsuit. I think people already know that, right?
I don't know.
Okay. So she was sued by another conservative gay man who,
oh yeah,
this is the Dave Robinson lawsuit.
And the Salt Lake Republican Party scandal they had.
Yeah.
I just love the word scandal, but as long as I'm not involved in it, I love the word.
What happened there?
Well, this is actually before I was even involved with the party, but she
I can tell you, a
Go
lot
ahead,
of the women who were running or were involved in campaigns accused David Robinson of basically sexual harassment. And not in I think he's a gay man and he's outwardly gay, but he was harsh, highly critical, according to them. And he was weird about their campaigns and not fair. And the state part or the county party chair was even wrapped up in this because they went to him and said, hey, ring him in.
So because he was harsh with people, they put forward a sexual harassment charge?
And this claim came out after the fact. So it was like overnight cancellation during the Me Too movement. And he was trying to stand up for himself. The party chair got ousted for not defending the ladies. And I'm friends with ladies that have accused him. So I'm neutral over here because I wasn't there and I don't know. But he did not get a chance to defend himself. And if he did, it was not listened to or heard. And then the lawsuit, he finally said, I'm not this guy that you're accusing me of this stuff. So he sued the victims, right?
Yes.
Or some of
he
them.
sued them for defamation, conspiracy, and then interference with contract. So Amy, I think, tried to get herself dismissed from the lawsuit and she failed. So she's in the lawsuit. Derek Brown is actually in the lawsuit as well. He also tried to get dismissed from the lawsuit and he failed. So
he was the state party chair at the time.
I think so.
I mean, that's the only reason I could think they would put Derek in there.
Yeah, I think he was the state party chair at the time. Lori Stringham is in there, another Salt Lake County Council member. But what Amy did is she drew Sylvia into that lawsuit and claimed, and this is actually, I actually wanted to quote this because the language is crazy. She said, Sylvia, she brought her into the lawsuit because Sylvia was leading a citizens committee created specifically to inappropriately scrutinize every aspect of Miss Winder Newton's work as an elected official.
Wow.
And
So citizens aren't allowed to scrutinize their elected official stuff. Okay, got it.
That is, so both of those things, forming a group of citizens, asking elected officials questions, are protected by the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
She might have she should have just said, look here, peasants. But honestly.
Yeah. And that's,
how dare you?
That's the attitude. So in response to that, Sylvia filed what's called a UPEPA motion. UPEPA is the Protection of Public Expression Act.
It's the SLAP
Yes.
in Utah, because SLAP lawsuits were as if a bigger organization sues a small organization just to either run them out of money or to scare them into keeping their trap shut. Because like if McDonald's sued Mom Pa Burger Shop, it's a SLAP lawsuit. So there's laws that are anti-SLAP so that the small group can petition the courts and have a little strength of the state backing them on their suit.
Yeah, it's the Uniform Public Expression Protection Act. And so what this does is for a normal person, so like people like us, if an elected official or a powerful person sues you and they do it for the purpose of suppressing your First Amendment rights or because you're using your First Amendment rights, you can file a motion against them, call this UPEPA motion. And if you win that motion, you'll get dismissed from the lawsuit and they will have to pay your attorney's fees. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, like when you go through this type of litigation, it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars.
And it's usually against someone who that's chump change for.
Yes.
Well, the PACs can pay for it.
Everyone listen to him. He's an actual lawyer. Me, I am an IQ 13 moron.
13 today?
13.
Wow.
We listen to Goud.
You need to be nice to yourself. You need to be nice.
16.
So this lawsuit, was it initially a defamation where Sylvia got dragged in?
Yeah.
Just as the citizen group that she started freely, I mean, she's using Freedom of Information Act, I assume.
She's just sending them emails and filing grandma requests.
Asking for grandma requests and asking questions about why you voted this way or why you got involved this way, which is basically what every state delegate has been doing for the past 6 weeks, right? With candidates. We're diving in, trying to figure it out, but she gets slapped with this.
Yeah. And so, I'll give you one of the questions she asked. And I'm going to have to pull my glasses up here. It was, do these multiple instances of Miss Winder Newton going after conservative gay men constitute a concerning pattern of behavior? That was one of the questions that Sylvia asked the district attorney, Sim Gill. And so keep in mind, first you have the lawsuit itself that this is now a part of, is a gay man suing her for the defamation conspiracy. A few weeks after she filed her response to the UPEPA motion, Amy tweeted saying that she had contacted the National Log Cabin Republicans to complain about us.
Okay.
And that dozens of people had done it. And I don't know who the dozens are, but I don't even know how she would know it was dozens of people unless she was somehow involved.
Arranging it.
Yeah, right. So it raises a lot of questions. And she actually said something that
Goud, one thing Sylvia brought up was the fact that Sim Gill was actually defending.
Yes.
Now, he's an elected. He's supposed to defend the state. Is he defending in the privately?
He could defend her. I think he can defend her if what she was doing is in her official position.
Okay.
But here, all of the allegations in that main lawsuit are about her interactions within the Republican Party.
Right.
We've asked, I've actually emailed and asked, hey, do you guys have an analysis? The county council, did you guys approve this? Do you have an analysis of why you would allow this representation?
Taxpayers are funding this.
And then what happens if she loses? Because if you're defending her, does that mean if she loses and is liable for $60 million, that now the taxpayers are going to pay for that?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the other part is, so on that UPEPA motion I was talking about, she has a private attorney that's defending, or that is prosecuting that. But there is a question of whether that private attorney is also being paid by taxpayers. She used to work for Sim Gill's office until recently. And now she works at a law firm that Sim Gill's office sometimes contracts with to provide legal services. We don't have an answer to that question. So we may even be paying for Amy to go after an individual citizen with a frivolous claim.
Okay, this is hard because she has to change hats. She's either an individual citizen or she is an elected representative, or she's even working under the governor's office. So all these different hats. I mean, she's got her own seat on the council, which is a big deal. It's a big deal. But taxpayers can't be funding this. I mean, this is insane. So has a grandma request been done to the actual official county council to see if she's being funded?
I think Sylvia sent them an email about it, and I've also sent an email about it. So I'm waiting to see if they'll answer that question or not. The other part I'll say though is they had a hearing. So the UPEPA, just to get a little bit more into this, it's a rapid 60 days. It's got to be decided. Also, it specifically says that all other claims in the lawsuit are stayed. No action can happen on them until that UPEPA motion is decided. Mm-hmm. The legislature has basically said it goes first. Nothing else gets decided until you've decided that UPEPA motion to the court. I went to the hearing and I was just blown away by the arguments that happened. And I'll just say, first of all, there was no press there, which shocked me because this is really significant. We have the governor's top aide being accused of filing.
You mean the Tribune didn't show up on this? What? No, shocked.
I was looking forward to seeing Brian Shaw.
Where is Brian Shaw when we need him to come out and do the hero's work?
Hey, Brian, if I would have known about it, I think Jared and I would have been there. And I have a name. It's Holly, and that's Jared, and we are Political Head Trauma.
No, he's reached out to me before. He's a big fan.
I mean, recently I'm seeing that they don't like our interviews. Yeah. So,
but anyway,
no one showed up.
No one showed up.
This is a big one. This is First Amendment stuff.
Yeah. Amy's lawyer admitted that they filed the lawsuit because Sylvia formed a committee and asked questions. So exercising her First Amendment rights. The judge multiple times said, I don't understand why you filed a lawsuit against a concerned citizen. I don't understand why you're making defamation claims against citizens. I mean, part of being an elected official is that people say stuff, but he's like, it happens to me all the time.
That's
I've
the
never
job.
tried to file
That's
it.
like
Yeah.
line 2 in the job description.
And I think it's a law, right? Defamation on a political figure or a famous person.
Shut up, dirty
It's
peasants.
so hard to prove because once you're a public person, it's all bets are off. I mean, Trump accused Ted Cruz's dad of shooting Kennedy, for crying out loud. You can say anything and not get defamation. So this is. So what did the judge say? Did he put a gag order on anyone? Like, was Sylvia told she can't talk about this? Why did we even make the news when she talked about this?
Oh, because you guys came up during the hearing. Amy Winder Newton's lawyer said, "Oh, Sylvia, Miss Fisk was also on a podcast recently talking about this and defaming Amy some more."
We should call ourselves the Dirty Peasants Podcast.
Yeah. So there's no gag order that was entered. What ended up happening is the judge dismissed. So the way Amy tried to bring Sylvia into the lawsuit is by filing what's called a motion for joinder to bring in a party that was not involved in the lawsuit. The judge, instead of ruling on the UPEPA motion, denied the motion for joinder. He said there is no way that she should be joined in this lawsuit. It's not a similar set of facts. She wasn't involved in anything that happened in 2021 when all the other allegations lawsuit happened. Frivolous. This was and then he said, well, now that I've dismissed you from the lawsuit, I don't have jurisdiction to be able to consider the UPEPA motion. I think legally what he did was wrong.
Yeah, because don't they have to consider the PEPA motion first?
Yeah. And so my understanding is they're looking at appealing that decision. And I hope they do, because honestly, if that judge's decision stands, he just blew a huge hole through UPEPA. And it means it's not going to protect everyday people like it should.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
even though you
Amy's
don't want it to go
appealing
a
that?
certain way.
No, I think Sylvia's going to appeal.
Sylvia's appealing that.
Yep.
So, wow. And I have to say, I know Amy. I think she's a great person. I've only had good involvement with her. I've never seen a side of her that I think is questionable or anything else, but I also don't vote the same as she does at SEC. I know she's more liberal than I am, but so are a lot of people on the SEC. I'm pretty conservative. And one of my best friends, Sean Milne, we don't vote the same at all, but he's one of my dearest best friends. Yeah. Not that Amy's one of my best friends, but I respect her a lot. And I would love her to come on the show because I think the one thing that she's upset about is exactly one of the things you're upset about. You're not getting your day and you're not getting heard. And this lawsuit, it's hard to accuse someone of something and they never get to question their accusers. They have to just take it. And I'm seeing it to where it's all great during the Me Too movement because we want to believe women, but it goes the other way. And pretty soon people will dismiss it. And next thing you know, now let's just put our targets out and we'll take them out one by one because we don't like them.
Well, why
and
is
then
she?
These people being accused don't get to face their accusers, and that's right against the Constitution.
Why is she going against? The Sylvia Fisk, where Sylvia starts up a peasant committee to ask for more porridge. Why does she go after her?
The unwashed masses.
Why does she go after her legally? You'd think at any time. I'm just spitballing here. Honestly, we all know I'm never going to get anywhere near any kind of political office because people are smarter than that. But at any moment, I'm sitting up there on my, silver throne or whatever, and I say, she's looking into what I'm doing. I'm going to drag her through court, and I'm going to drag her.
Every politician I know has a citizen like that. Sure.
But why is she trying to shut them down in that manner?
Yeah. Well,
instead of coming out, you come out and talk to them. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Well, and why the law Republicans? why go after log cabin Republicans? I mean, there's a lot of groups out there that are questioning politicians, but why would you want that? I would never want that to be on my page.
Well,
is
she wanted them
down the.
She
the
wanted
log
them
cabin
to shut
Republicans.
Goud down. That's what she went after, and she honestly, I'll say it. It sounds like log cabin Republicans. You guys damaged your community in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's kind of weird is the amount of ire that she has towards me. She does not have towards Troy Williams, who's a white liberal gay man, right? You would think that a Republican who is allegedly conservative or somewhat conservative would have more problems with Equality Utah than with the log cabin Republicans. Because everything, the way I view stuff, you know, I grew up with.
Are you saying an elected official is a liar and two-faced?
Or that money?
I will not.
Money might have something to do with
Maybe
it.
money. I think sometimes we have really thin-skinned elected officials, and my parents are immigrants, and I don't know if you guys know how Indian immigrant parents are, but they're rough. So
You had to be a lawyer.
He got his law
or you were
degree.
disowned, right?
He
He
got
was
his-
lawyer, doctor, or engineer.
Yeah, no, it was stuff like
He wanted to be a rapper. He got his law degree at 13 so he could pursue his rap career after.
right. You don't want to hear me rap.
And they're really conservative, right? You come from an upbringing of conservatism, or no?
They became Democrats after Bill Clinton. They're more liberal, and so, but this is what it is. If they think you did something bad or you didn't do something well, they will tell you.
Right.
Like I remember growing up, you'd come out and they'd be like, "Your hair looks terrible. Go fix it. Or go change your clothes. You look horrible." But it's like they're doing it because they love you, right?
Yes.
No one is going to be that critical.
Right, and you
They-
represent their name.
Yeah, they want
And
you
they
to do
want
this.
you to have
They
honor.
demand you. They demand that you work in a means that will make your life successful.
And you have self-respect
Yeah.
for yourself and for your family.
And so when I come at this with Republicans saying, "Hey, you know what? Your bill, why did you go on TV and say that men can still use women's bathrooms?" Both Kira Birkeland and Candace Perucci have said this. They get upset at me for pointing out their own videos. And I'm saying, I am on your side, trying to push you to do better, because your voters, they didn't want men in women's bathrooms.
It's
They
true.
want them not there.
They didn't.
And you didn't get it done. So
Again, an elected official doing something different than
And you guys, that's your job as a citizen, is to keep our electeds in the know of how we feel on issues.
No,
How
our
else?
job is to trudge and give them tax money. That is our job. I
If
am
you're doing
learning
your
this.
job right as a citizen, you are attending meetings, you are calling people out, and you're also highlighting when they do great things. I mean, it's just as easy to compliment Kara Birkeland as it is to ridicule her for a bill or a vote. I've found with her, she seems to try to fix it. When people ask her about just that Summit County thing. She voted wrong on the project for Summit County, and she came out and said, "I voted wrong there and I need to fix it." Well, that's something. I mean, but it's
And
still, you still should be called out by your citizenry.
yeah, and look, I'm thankful that she took on HB 257. That's great. We needed that. But did it get to where we wanted to be? No. And I'd like her to do better. But I say that I'm on her side.
Yeah,
Like,
you would
let's
circle
do
the
better.
wagons for her in her defense at any time.
Exactly.
Because that's how I feel about Amy. Okay. I know that there's all this ridicule and stuff happening, but I'll defend her because it's the right thing to do. And yeah, let's educate each other, but we're on the same team here. And if they're behaving badly, I would love someone to say, "Hey, you're wrong here," or "You're not handling this correctly. We could do better." I would much rather hear that from my own side than to have the other side paying me or using my name, my face to do something I don't believe in. And at least if someone calls me out, I know that I'm in the wrong. I would hope someone would call me out.
Yeah.
Other than the Tribune. Thank you.
I mean, it's free press. Check the press where you get it.
But so is your First Amendment right
They only give
to
us-
to challenge your legislatures. And
yeah.
you lose the log cabin Republicans. I just still can't understand why anyone would want that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, so she tweeted about it, and so she said she's one of dozens who complained about, she said, the off-brand messaging and bullying tactics of Goud. He has lied about me and many other Republicans. I'm going to unapologetically stand up to bullies. So I'll just say this. I am happy. First of all, I don't lie. What's crazy is that you don't need to lie to point out the problems with Republicans in Utah.
Nope.
No need. I am happy to debate Amy anytime, anywhere. And so if you guys can make it happen on your show, I will come back and I will debate her. We can go over every single thing that I pointed out about her.
But you're a
and have
bully.
that discussion.
Would she do that though, you think? Or is there like it's not in her best interest for court
No.
about this?
I think she could do it if she wanted to. She's an elected official. She's not going to do it because she knows that I don't lie.
Tell me about this. Why does she call you a bully?
I don't even know how. I don't control any levers of government to do anything. Everything that we've accomplished as a group, so the Utah Gay Straight Coalition, previously the Utah Log Cabin Republicans, is through persuasion. That's it. I don't have any interactions I've had with her. I don't text her. I don't talk to her in person because I think, and not because of anything on my part, because she's come up to me before and been very aggressive, and I don't like that. I email her.
You're a terrible bully.
I filed a grandma request. That's it.
I've talked to you lots of times, and you're very calm and
non-confrontational.
And you're very calm and kind of introspective when you talk. You don't use any irrational words. You're just and I don't know, maybe behind closed doors,
I'm tired of the word bully. Just like I'm tired of a lot of words, but bully.
You're over
relative.
there.
It's a relative word.
Like when no one else is looking, you're showing her your ball peen hammer collection. I don't know.
Yeah.
How are you bullying?
Yeah, I would never do that. I mean, and she's a very powerful individual. I'm a gay guy that lives in Riverton, Utah. Where with people that came after my organization, they came after my job. They got me fired from my job as well.
Unbelievable.
So when you think about kind of the
but
bullying,
your job pisses me off. Why would your job let you go based on this?
That's what I think happened, because I think they got pressured by left-wing groups, like specifically Equality Utah.
Oh, it's happening all over the country.
Yeah, and I don't know, after seeing this tweet from Amy, I kind of wondered if she was also involved in it, and I'd like to get to the bottom of that. So but this is the thing, is like, I don't think any of this should happen to anybody.
No.
We should be able to have free form debates, discussions in public, and then don't attack people. Don't go after their jobs. Don't go after their organizations. Engage.
We hate it when the left does it.
Yeah.
Why would we do it on the right?
I
know there's fight fire with fire, but
I watch the Republicans universally around the nation, or the Republican Party, and do we though? I mean, you get some Republicans that do, but
do what?
Hate it when the left does it.
Oh no,
I think the party in general is just another power hungry organization that tries to collect power to itself, and it does not
change what's happening in the nation.
It does not care about changing the nation. It cares about the power.
We will see. We will see. Because if Donald Trump wins and the Republican Party in the House and Senate get their crap together and support his policy, we are going to see America better. We are.
Yeah. All right. Republicans.
But they have to get their poop in a group.
Let's make sure
I'm serious. And I've told you this before. If our Republicans in the Congress, in the Senate, don't rally behind our president and make good policy, so we don't have all these different laws that he puts in, these executive orders, he's showing us who's in the swamp.
How about just
we got to believe him?
Republicans in the bureaucracy of the state of Utah fighting for the state to get some of its land.
Well,
can we get any of that? How about one or two of them I just got done signing up for the hunt in the Utah Department of Wildlife Resources, maybe making some decisions that are positive for the hunters of the state of Utah, instead of overrunning every range with elk, because elk tags are more expensive for out of state.
Yeah, I think that's
How
a
about
great
any of
question.
that? I'm not seeing any of that. I am seeing a bureaucratic nightmare ahead of me on every front, and
It's
it doesn't
everywhere.
matter.
It's everywhere. It's in your organizations. It's in your local, state, federal government.
Yeah.
And it's also got powers that we can only imagine with what the CIA can do, what the FBI can do. And we aren't privy to any of it.
That's true, but there is a lot we can do locally in the state and in your local governments that I think you really can't do at the federal level. And part of it is for all of us to start demanding more of our own side, because we have a supermajority Republican legislature on that bathroom bill. It should have gone 100%.
It should have been simple. It should have been.
They didn't need any Democrat votes. We should have gotten 100%.
It should have been simple. Yeah. Oh, you're packing twig and giggleberries? Guess which bathroom you use? Period.
SB 54. I am so sick of candidates telling me they're victims of SB 54. And yes, you can buy your way on the ballot because that's the law we have. We just have to follow it. So I'm saying, oh, really? Then change the law. And I'm willing. I've asked my legislators here in the county, you run the bill that eliminates SB 54. And he said, well, it's not going to pass. I said, I don't care if it passes. I want everybody to have to pull the lever, yes or no.
Run it and run it again every year.
Yeah, I want to see. And I want to see the governor veto it if it does pass. Because start showing us who you are so we can get rid of you. You don't represent our voice anymore. And we're tired. And Americans are tired, but Utahns are tired. The Republicans in our county that I talk to are so fed up with both sides. But our side tends to be the one that is still trying. And there's still hope. So I'm saying locally, let's put their money where their mouth is. Run the bill. Run it.
Yeah. Then, if it fails, take it to interim. And then people can show up and they can testify in support of it and oppose it. And you can get that bill wherever you need to get it and figure out what kind of support there is. But
I want to highlight every person who votes against it.
Yeah.
Every single person. So at least I know, hey, this is who we've got up there. We've got a swamp in Utah, just like there is in DC.
Yeah, we definitely do.
And they're riding both sides of the line.
Our swamp's on a pretty hill, though.
Well, I feel like there's still hope because I know you don't, but
I know.
Knowing some of these people up there and the line they're walking is so difficult because they're beholden to a lot of different factors besides their neighbors, their church. They've got to represent half, which are Democrats of especially in Salt Lake County. That is a very Democrat. And they're not going to get elected if they don't run a little left wing. But I can't imagine being in that place because it's really easy to sit here from my high chair and go, oh, I'm totally red and I can vote all these conservative ways and all this stuff because I'm just a party chair.
Does the Salt Lake County Council, are they dominant Republican?
Yeah, they're majority Republican right now.
But they're being led around by, I don't like calling it liberal policies because I believe liberalism leads back to, liberty and stuff. But progressive, they're led around by these progressive policies. Is that a common thing?
Well, to your point, some of those Republicans are kind of more liberal. And so so when we brought up the men being allowed in women's locker rooms, we should have been able to win changing that
Absolutely.
with a majority Republican county council, but we didn't. We had Republicans that defected.
Which is crazy. That's the way I feel about the flag. We had the flag in the bag. Let's bring it to the ballot. I don't care if you love the flag or hate the flag. I don't care. That's not the issue. I think the Utah citizens should have had a chance to vote. And when I left that chamber that day when it was on the floor, we had the win to bring it to ballot. And in the 11th hour, I think Kara Birkeland was one of them that changed their vote. And I'm just like, why? Why would you keep this off the ballot for the people?
To be fair to them, they get bullied by other more powerful legislators.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, like they'll get their committees stripped. They'll get their bills.
That's another thing.
They'll get
I
campaign
think
finances against
if we're
them in
not-
the next race.
if we're not going to make our political representation a lottery like we should, so that we send a plethora of people there, so we should at least make committees a lottery, just straight up a lottery. You know, welcome to the legislation. They spin that wheel, they pull out, all right, you're on the environmental committee.
Like the Harry Potter hat.
And he may be like, I don't know anything about environmentalism.
You learn.
Yeah, learn.
You're in Slytherin
Give
today.
it 2 hours a week, and we'll see you next year in session.
Yeah, that actually be really fun too. Can you imagine the little, like, you can have all the citizens show up and
imagine
come draw the names out. Like,
seriously,
yeah.
seriously,
You can make that
make
really
it a
fun.
party. But what's going to
Imagine
happen?
the different ideas that would come out of committee if
Yeah.
you didn't have people
Well,
that were vying
even
for that
then-
committee.
And you've got someone who steps into a committee who doesn't know anything about it, and so he's got no side in the game. He's just going to sit down and study what's in
Yeah.
front of him.
And
So
talk
he
to
might
people
bring
that
a
concerns it.
perspective that he draws out. And then again, you might get someone like me who's borderline.
Insane?
I can't say the R word anymore, but I'm going to
No.
say it.
Don't.
But anyways, who's borderline, like right on that edge.
Special.
You know, his eyes are too far apart.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, you get someone like me that gets signed up, and you know, he might just be a bump on the log there, but that's better than having all of them just be tools of big corporations.
Well, and someone like you, would probably reach out to your constituents and
I'd have
to the
to.
people.
I'd
that
have to.
A lot of these bills affect businesses.
Yep.
So you reach out to the businesses it affects. I'm sorry, this is all common sense, but I am stunned that sometimes that little gesture isn't done. And then, okay, let's say they do reach out. I mean, I've seen a lot of times where Scott Sandel, for example, Merrill Nelson had town halls here in the county, and we had 10 people show up. And it's regarding something huge about districting. And the 10 people that show up are all politically involved already. So the citizen is partly to blame here.
Sure.
But in these committees, imagine if it was a random draw, then you're not trying to appeal to the speaker, and the speaker doesn't have all this power.
But I want to ask another
It's very
question.
grassroots, and hopefully,
How's this going to go the first time in one of the rec centers there in Salt Lake County, when a Democrat woman takes her little baby Democrat, we'll call him Kratite, into the ladies' locker room, and they're changing to play some pickleball. You know, the 9-year-old she's excited about the first time stepping up, and a guy named Bubba is blow drying his taint in front of the mirror, just swinging
we had to
heavy.
go.
How does this go? How does that work out?
And
Okay, so under HB 257, you have to have some form of bottom surgery. So you have to have like a penectomy, an orchiotomy, a vaginoplasty, and
So
get an
penectomy is
An
when they hack
appendectomy?
off the twig.
Yep.
What's the other one?
Orchiotomy is when it's getting castrated.
It's
They remove your testicles.
cutting the giggle
But who's
berries.
checking?
That's the difficulty. And then, and just keep in mind, you have to also get an amended birth certificate. That's how the rules
Right.
work. But I think the enforcement is the problem
Yeah.
here. Also, there's a provision in there that if you are accused of doing false reports more than once, meaning if you're a woman and you are accused of falsely saying that someone is not supposed to be in there because they're a man, you can be criminally prosecuted for that if you do it twice.
What do you think would be more shocking to the young lady, if the guy had the twig cut off or just the giggle berries? Maybe not the young
I
lady,
think just
but
hearing you describe it would be shocking.
just
And it is.
one of the. It'd be like something's missing there.
Yeah, but is that the same rule for what the Salt Lake County people were voting on for locker rooms? Because
no,
that was a different deal.
yeah, the Salt Lake County, the one that we
Yeah.
got D. Theodore to propose, was actually stricter. It was you have to go use the one that corresponds with your birth certificate or birth sex.
Your birth
Mhm.
sex,
Birth
because
sex,
certificates
yeah.
can
You
be
could change it,
changed.
yeah, so I think it was with your birth sex. It was actually stricter than what we got in HB 257, and that's been one of my kind of contentions. Is I think in a in a super majority Republican legislature, we have a lot of Republicans who go and work with Equality Utah and they weaken bills that should not be weak. And the HB 257 is an example of that. Yeah.
We're giving away what could be an opportunity to fix our problem.
Yeah. And under the current law, think about it this way. Since a trans woman, so a man, could still go into the women's locker room, it means that if you're a woman and you're in the locker room, you might see a more masculine woman and think that's a man, but she could actually, she might actually be a woman, because women come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And I think that's what's unfair about it, is that women now in the locker room be questioning each other when they shouldn't have to do that.
And that worries me, because
you get Buck Angel walking in.
I would hate to have to be the person checking.
That'd confuse everyone.
I would hate to be the one checking and having to prove it. You know, if there's a complaint.
Do you think you'd do that with one of the bomb mirrors for inspecting a vehicle?
I want to know what happens the first time a dad is waiting outside a locker room for his 12-year-old daughter. And there is a man in there, because we're seeing that in public restrooms, and people say that it's not happening. It's happening, folks. It's happening.
The problem. Let me lay this out. The problem is it's going to be just like the Salt Lake City Library. It's going to make it unusable for the general populace. The Salt Lake City Library is, I've been there a couple times, and it's a homeless and drug hangout.
Oh, I wouldn't. Yeah.
So it's unusable for the general public. The people who pay for it, who pay for the benefit, cannot use it. If you make this so that an individual with less than stellar designs on the community wants to go in there just because, I mean, people pierce weird parts of their body. I can imagine they hack things off on a whim and goes in there just to get their little fun time of shocking the community, makes it unusable for the good men and women.
Well, so under HB 257, and this is according to both Kira Birkeland and Candace Perucci, men can still use women's bathrooms as long as they are not lewd and they don't loiter, but they can go and use them. So what's your lewd? Scenario is actually, that's where the problem is. Yep. Is if you go to a public building and you send your daughter into the women's bathroom thinking that there's only, when you're a man, right? So you don't want to go in with her, thinking that there's no men in there. There could be a man in there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what that response looks like.
That's what we're going to see one of these
days. What is lewd? Did they define lewd?
Well, I don't know exactly. I assume it'd be flashing them at all, because I think in a women's bathroom, there's no, you would have to go into a stall to use the restroom. So everything should be covered.
Should be about, we have our own stalls. We don't have like wall hanging urinals, but
why not? I mean, imagine you guys always have a line
next to the litter box.
You guys always have a line outside of your stuff.
That's because there's more women than men.
If you guys learned to use the wall hanging stuff and just walk out, maybe put a blow dryer on the floor, bypass the stop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then you guys may not be waiting in line forever at a concert.
Or maybe concert venues should make double female bathrooms that they do men, because that's who is using them. But what I'm saying is,
women are only allowed for certain times.
It's a matter of time before something happens.
I'm telling you,
to a trans woman.
And it may be an innocent thing, like
it might be right
the
or
trans
wrong.
woman just has a full body shiver, or in there and bangs the wall, and next thing you know, they're thinking they're lewd. Because that doesn't define it.
I don't know what that means.
Seriously.
When you use the bathroom, sometimes you get the full body shiver.
You wouldn't see that because they're in a stall.
But they bang the wall of the stall, and then they think they're doing weird stuff, like a Idaho senator tapping his foot in an airport.
Yeah, but that's in the men's room. All men are in there. I'm saying
no. In the men's room, they make the urinals yay wide because of that shiver. Because they know
comes out after your daughter, your 12-year-old or 11-year-old is in there, and you're just like, it's like a video I think I saw on TikTok where the dad's like, wait, before you go in there, and he goes in, and there is a man in a park restroom.
Really?
And he the man walks out quickly.
Was it like a real thing, or was it a skit?
No, I think it was a real thing.
I think it was real.
During the testimony on HB 257, actually, Nicolene Peck, she talked about being in a woman's bathroom at a park where a little girl was in there and there was a man in the bathroom. And the little girl went in the stall and the man opened the door, like inviting Nicolene to leave. And she said, she's like,
inviting her to leave after the
like,
little girl went
You
in.
walk out
open.
first. Let me hold the door open for you. She's like, I just felt like there was something wrong, and I refused. I just stayed because I needed to make sure that girl was going to be safe. But it does happen.
It's
it
happening.
Can still happen, and it is dangerous. And the thing is, like, you don't know. It doesn't take that long.
And
for
these
something
aren't
to
even
happen.
men trying to look like women.
Well, remember
In the
it's a man.
videos, this man looked like a man. And
I don't know.
just
She
in the
may
ladies'
have had a
restroom.
lovely beard, but remember that in LA this last year where they had was it a spa where a lady was in there with her like 9 or 10-year-old daughter, and the lady was whatever she was doing with her man genitalia there, but she was like openly flaunting it. And so this lady gets mad, and next thing you know, there's like a Democrat civil war in front of the spa. It's all Democrats showing up, fighting each other.
24-hour fitness? Is that what you're referring to?
No, it's a spa.
It was I think it was one of those like spas where all the women are in one area, all the men in one area.
Yeah,
you
you go in there and you
and
put
stuff.
on the white robe and they put mud on your
I know what
face
you
and
mean.
cucumbers do something. I don't know, but that was a big, huge deal for a while because they had these blurred lines.
Oh,
I just don't know how you enforce it.
It's a problem. I think some of it is we as a society want to be really nice, but I actually think we're not being nice when we're being dishonest with people about their ability to change their sex. So it would be better if we were just honest about it, because I think a lot of these people, they're clearly suffering, right? It's a mental health issue. And so if you were more honest about it, being like, actually, no, you can't change to a woman. You need to go use the men's room. You need to be in a men's locker room. You got to play men's sports. I think it would help them understand that actually what I need to do is become comfortable in my birth sex.
So you're saying that you shouldn't encourage mental illness.
Oh,
That's what you're saying.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I would be better off
Because
if we
I wouldn't
just
tell an anorexic to remove her legs if she wants to lose weight. Why would I tell a woman, yeah, you're in the wrong body and this is totally normal?
I just think we build a third bathroom that is
they have those.
Adults who are ready to witness whatever goes on behind that door. We don't monitor it. You can't come out and report it. You have to be 8. It's like a bar.
Where are you going to get money for that?
You have to be 18 to enter that door. I would say let the private businesses build it, and
private
maybe they will
businesses have
come.
Built, and they're called family restaurants.
And you just say you go in there.
It.
We don't know what's in it, but this is different than a family. You have to be 18.
But who's going to monitor it? You're
no.
singing.
You have a sign on there that says we do not monitor this, and
you have to be 18. By the way, here's the laws.
If something happens in here, you can't report it. Now, if you're under 18 and go in there,
if someone goes in and gets raped, you can't report it.
We're gonna charge you like you broke the law going in there. But we don't want to know what you guys do in there. You know, we don't want to know if Sheila is combing her chest hair or any of that.
You're crazy. There's no way to even do that. That's why they should have, a lot of Target even has single bathrooms you can go in and lock. And like me, when my kids were little, just haul us all into one bathroom.
Yeah.
And
Home Depot has that. And when it's not full, it's rather a pleasant experience.
And my kids' school has the same thing. They have locker rooms, then there's bathrooms in the locker rooms, and then there's bathrooms in the hallways. So if kids don't want to change in front of their kids, they can go to the bathroom in the locker room. And if they don't want to change in the bathroom, they can go out in the hallway. I think there's an answer to this that keeps everybody with dignity, and it protects our girls, which is, and I'm even saying trans men, those trans men need protection.
Trans men are the previously ladies.
Yeah. There, the thing is with bathrooms, it's less of an issue, I think, when you have a trans man go in. So a woman going to a man's bathroom like that. Yeah,
she just wanders into the crapper stall.
I just worry.
And for men, it's not a security issue.
Yeah, and it's not. And I mean, sure, men get sexually assaulted. I'm sure they do, but it's not quite often.
Well, I think they do, but I was saying that I mean, it's very unlikely that
It's
they're gonna be able
rare.
to overpower a biological man or do the things that a trans
In a
woman
public
could do
space.
to a woman.
Yeah,
it's a very different thing.
It's very rare for a woman to physically overpower a man.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's rare for a woman to have those desires, to want to indulge in those desires.
Yeah, because rape is about control. It's not usually
which
about
I think
sex.
that's the bigger separation is women don't see that force. Well, maybe I'm talking out
Maybe
of my
women
butt,
that have testosterone.
but I don't think
though,
women see forcible sex as a domination achievement that men who pursue that see it as. Women, I think, are craftier and
to your point,
shady.
though, this is why you don't see women competing in men's sports. Why it's one-sided.
Yeah.
I mean, how many women do you see trying to join the NFL or trying to be in the NBA?
There was some of them soccer
to
ladies that wanted to be
compete in the
kickers.
Olympics. Maybe. I mean, maybe. But then again, if there's an excellent woman out there who can kick a field goal at 62 yards,
they'll put her in
there's
lingerie
no
and
way
put her on that special
an NFL team is not going to grab her. It's just it's because they're about the money. But if it was about skill, you would see a lot more women trying to compete against men in the Olympics in racing. And did you just see that the gavel throw competition
That
where
shot
all
put.
the shot put
Shot put
where
in
all the women just said, nope, I won't compete.
It wasn't
I won't
women. Wasn't it
compete."
a high school event?
Well, the girls, they
But
said
all
we
the
will
there's
not
like
compete.
6 of them said we're not doing it.
Yeah,
And they walked
good
up-
for them.
Yes,
That's how it
because
should be done.
Yes.
if they would have
Excellent.
done that from the beginning, this would not even be an issue.
But I
right
don't
now.
think they were
Yes.
given more that. I think it took because that thing with Leah Thomas, they weren't given that option. Like they go into the locker room, they're all competing against each
They
other,
would have had to forfeit.
and they're pulling on their swimsuits, and in walks hanging meat and stuffing it in, and there's probably tape involved. I don't know
Okay.
how they do it, and they're just all standing there
family
like
show.
shocked.
Yes, but they'd have to forfeit their opportunity. And that's what these
But
kids
they
did.
weren't given
they
that.
forfeited
Yeah,
that opportunity
But
to
Leah-
compete.
Leah Thomas has now been stripped. Those have been because I think there's enough of a public outrage now.
I just wish it would have started sooner.
I do
because
too.
That's who should take their power back. It's those young girls who are being forced to compete against a male. I don't care how old. And I really love the kid. I imagine the kid is struggling and the family is struggling and not knowing how to fix or help. But if it comes down to the girl's safety and all of this, it's a lot of this placating, and they do it in the name of empathy, and empathy is what is destroying our country.
Yeah, I had one of my family members had a kid. One of their kids came and said, "Oh, I think I'm a girl." And my family member said, "No, you're not. You were born. I birthed you. You were a boy.
Mhm.
You will always be a boy. Get that nonsense out of your head." This is kind of the Indian style of dealing with it, and done.
Though I bet
they're
it'd
in
be
California.
better coming from your parents with the accent.
Yeah, right. This was from someone that grew up here.
Yeah, so
Dang
they
it.
sounded American, but your parents, I dig the Indian American accent because it's snappy and quick. I dig it. But
I love indie films.
but the
for that.
Indian British, that one is the best because they throw bloody around like it is. That is the word, and they might
But what
put
he's
something on
getting
either
at
side
is
of it.
that truth.
But no, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there are states threatening to take your child away if you don't
Mhm.
placate them. And the problem is you got to stand up, and sometimes you're going to stand alone, but my hell, what happens if we all just decide that this isn't our issue? No big deal. And yet a girl gets raped in a Virginia bathroom and they say that never happened. It's a red herring. Well, it happened. And then it
In a
happened
Virginia
again.
high school bathroom.
Yep. And it happened again. And it's like,
Though it sounds like that kid, looking into that, sounds like that kid was a predator.
absolutely.
Complete.
He was a predator, and he wore women's clothes to pursue his predation.
How many
But-
predators out there wouldn't?
Oh, seriously.
This is a free pass for
But-
predators.
So tell me about your family member. How are they doing now? Did they?
Yeah. Done.
Good,
Really?
because
problem solved.
this kid, that child can pursue a happy life.
They'll probably write a book
Without-
though, about how they were
without-
shamed or something. No?
No, pursue a happy
I don't
life.
know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe he will
Time will
one day.
tell.
I don't know.
As parents,
Or
we're going to
maybe
be
he'll be
blamed for
thankful.
everything.
Well, here's
Maybe
what's
he'll-
concerning me. Say you're 13 now, and you come out and humana, and they want to mutilate your body so that you're never going to be able to pair bond with a lover of your choice at all.
Yep.
That's where this guidance is leading to. Let's lay everything else aside. Whether you feel it's weird or an aberration or whatever, you're taking this child and you're taking away one of the precious things that nature gave to human beings, is pair bonding through intimacy.
Yeah.
And you're taking that away from them.
And the
Right.
joy of whether it's gay or straight, it's love. And you're taking their ability to even show that to a partner,
Mhm.
regardless of who they love. That to me is heartbreaking. In fact, the woman, I listened to a podcast, and I don't even remember her name, but she had just left basically family services that was under John Hopkins, where they were helping children, transgender children. And it was like, she eventually walked away because she's like, wait a minute, we're not helping these kids. We're hurting them.
Mhm.
Because now she's seeing the after effects, and they were only turning away out of hundreds of kids, like 3. And so they're like, wait a minute, we're making patients for life. And yet I got all these teenagers in here, and teenagers are by nature confused. They're finding their place in the world. They don't know where they're at. Culture's telling them this, and their parents are telling them this, and all this chaos. So they're looking for answers. They're looking to these adult experts, and these adult experts are feeding their hysteria on gender.
Well,
And then 20 years go by, and now these kids can't fall in love. They can't make love. They can't produce
imagine
kids.
the depression they're feeling just to let alone, let's not even talk about the intimacy, just to have that physical damage that you have to tend to with drugs and medical intervention all the time.
And your
Yeah,
ability
but
to
I actually
procreate.
think that intimacy portion is one of the things that people don't talk about enough.
Absolutely.
It's, as an adult, it's such a critical part of your life, and
It's huge.
because that bond
That's how
have
you
with-
pair bond.
Yeah, you can't. That bond is different than the bond you'll have with anybody else.
Mhm.
And
It's
so,
what God created us to do is to love and be loved.
Yeah.
Period. The end. Like
Yeah.
we love is
He created us to
the
throw our genetic
greatest-
material as far in the future as we can.
He's created us so that the bond you create with another soul fills you up, and that no one can describe love in an accurate term because it is so intense and so important.
Yeah, and so that family member, I think, when he is an adult, he will be thankful because
Oh,
he'll be
seriously.
able to, whatever it turns, maybe he turns out to be gay, whatever it is, but he'll be able to function. He'll be
Even
able to
then,
have those relationships.
Gay, there's a
and it'll be
pair
great.
bonding.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, exactly.
Even then, I mean, unless he wants to, be a hermit or a monk brewing beer in Italy somewhere, he's gonna be thankful for that. And so you're well, you heard about the cast review or the cast report that came out 3 weeks ago now, and that's a study into the British gender affirming stuff, and it is shocking, and it's tearing apart all of the transing kids in Great Britain right now. We know Northern Europe they've started tearing theirs apart months and months ago, and then of course you got places like Hungary and Poland, which don't have time to deal with that bullshit because Russia is at the doorstep. So they're like,
It's true.
We got bigger things to deal
countries
with
have
right
the
now.
luxury of this argument. I don't know that is it a big deal in India to where they're because in China you don't get to be trans in China. That government would never allow it, right? And in Russia, nope, it's not happening.
In Iran,
How luxury for Americans that this is our argument. All
in
the
Iran,
time.
you don't get to be gay.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
the trans.
They force
get to
the
be in Russia
state.
either,
The
really.
state transes you if you're gay in Iran.
you fall off buildings.
Not in Iran. No, they don't want to lose population. They send you to a special doctor, and the doctor does I hear they do a pretty good job in Iran, which is shocking. You'd think
Job
they'd
of
be.
what?
They trans them. They do the full.
Make them female?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
It's
that's
it's
horrendous.
shocking.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I think one of the things I've observed, and it's just anecdotal, is I feel like in Utah, actually, the rate of trans kids strikes me as really high. And I don't know what it is that's making Utah, so many kids in Utah go down this path. Because I suspect if you actually kind of delve into it, a lot of them are probably gay.
Gay Mormons who feel bad because their church teaches them.
I don't know if that's what it was, but whatever it is, like they go down that path instead of just being gay. Where in today's world, I'm gay and like you can live a great life.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Totally normal life. I live in Riverton is like all my neighbors are just most of them are LDS. They go to the ward every
They
weekend.
probably love having you as a neighbor because you
I love
have a
my
clean
gay
yard.
neighbors.
Yeah, we have no issues at all.
Love my
It's
gay
great.
neighbors.
So,
They have a clean yard. I mean, okay, let me put it like this. If you live in a house and a single guy moves in next door, he's driving property values down. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
Because he's going to drink too much. He's
You're
you know,
so
he just doesn't
stereotypical.
care. But it seems like the gay men, they tend to have a better eye for yard work. They have cleaner lines down the sidewalk. Mine aren't great.
Right? Like, what's your argument here, Mr. Stereotype?
Adam Carolla said it best. He said, when they moved into my neighborhood, they drove the property values up. I love it.
True.
When I lived in DC for a long time, and that's what you would see is like the gays would go into new neighborhoods,
Yeah.
the property values would skyrocket, the families would follow, and the gays would be like, "We're out of here."
Yep.
Yeah, but
But
it's
the cool
because
businesses would pop up.
you
Property
guys-
values go up in New York City too.
Yeah.
you guys don't bring crime. You guys have more disposable income. So
You
with
guys.
that,
He's like booking. You guys.
you gentlemen, what do you want me to say? More disposable income, so more retails show up. You gentlemen, I don't know I don't want to
community.
the community,
In general.
whatever, but there are a lot of positives.
They're the most fun at
good
parties,
neighbors,
neighborhood block parties.
good neighbors to have. Seriously, and as far as Democrats go, gay Democrats are the ones I get along with the best.
Oh yeah,
They're laid back.
Fun, yeah.
They don't want to force their stuff on you. They have their ideals. It's married white women Democrats that are not the easiest to manage.
I don't even
all the
know
time.
what party my gay neighbors belong to, but it's never mattered. It's never mattered.
They're just
I just
but-
adore them. They're so good to me, and they're so good to other neighbors. And I feel so lucky that they live by me and they're neat people. And I always meet neat people when I go there to their house or when we're at a party. It's just amazing. But again, it's a different time. I would hope that if my children were gay, that it's this time that they live in, because the struggle of the gays when we were young was a lot different.
They were kept quiet.
And we talked about this when you were on the show last time. It's like most gay kids
It's
and
weird
gay
for you
men
to-
and women want to be left alone. Just get out of my
100%.
bedroom. Just stay out of.
But they don't want to have to be an outsider, which it's got to be tough for you to sit here and hear me saying they all the time. But I imagine being gay when I was in high school in the early 90s was not impossible, but it was probably a little complicated because it's not like it wouldn't have been as normal for them to walk down the streets showing affection.
Right. No, I think things have changed a lot. So today it's a totally different thing. But I think at the end of the day, most just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of the community, but people are welcoming. They don't really care. I think most gays aren't trying to push anything. Like, I'm not going to bring some weird pornographic book to your kid. Or all this stuff. I just want to live my life. And, like, if you have an issue, I want to help you out.
Equality.
If
like
something
legit.
happens to me, I hope that you'll care enough to come and check on me. And I found with my neighbors, they do. Just a normal neighborhood. That's all you want, right?
Well, they don't want the spotlight. It's like me when people go, "Oh, she's one of the longest serving female chairs in the state," and I'm like, "Okay, you don't have to drop the female. Just say chairs, because I don't need that. I feel like I'm not representing women everywhere. I'm just representing a belief system and the platform and what I believe in. But I get that the gay community is saying, just let us be us. We don't need all this attention. We don't need, and that's what they brought up the Dave Chappelle skit where he's like, here's the gays driving along. We've blazed this trail, and here we are, equality, and everything's fine. And now the trans hop on. Now it's all about me, and it's all about this. And all of a sudden they're on our bus, and we're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I also wonder if a lot of the transing is a popularity scheme. Because you're roughly the same age as me. You graduated
like a social
in
construct.
and a couple years after, in late 90s.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have baby face.
I know she's our elder. We must show respect.
Oh.
But anyways,
I hate you.
Anyways, when we were in school, to get a claim, you would do something. You would be good in band, be good in sports, get good grades.
Good in band.
Band.
Oh my God, I thought he said that at first.
What school did you go to? We went to the same high school.
Goodness.
What
The
teachers
Q-tips
did
are
you
in the
have?
bathroom. You go ahead and just. But anyways, you would do
Get
things
off
like
my
that.
lawn.
But I'm seeing right now that it seems like teachers, and it's starting in elementary school. If a third grader, right, this kid still does not know how to wipe correctly. It's a Chernobyl
You always
disaster.
gotta be gross.
But
Just say they still want to be a pirate.
child at 6 years old comes out and says, "I'm gay," the teacher will have him or her stand in front of the class. Everyone claps. They're so brave when the kid doesn't know what it means yet, doesn't know what they're saying. Whereas you get the other kid who can hit a home run at his baseball game, and it's like, meh. But they do this.
Let me know when you're gay.
They have a parade or a little celebration, so all the other kids come out, and then they probably think that that's a route for acceptance. And I mean, it's going to be kind of a generation lost when it comes to greatness, because when we were kids, we all went to school with people who went on to excel at something that roots of that something was built in elementary school. Be it a girl who becomes a writer because she wrote a story that the second grade teacher said, that looks great. And so she pursued that along every year level. And these kids are going to be a generation that's going to have,
They're encouraged.
they're not going to have an exceptionalism that we see in other groups. Not that I meet that criteria at all, but I went to school with some exceptional people. And they're exceptional to this day.
Thank you.
Yes, she was a year above me, a year ahead of me. We all looked up to her.
So you guys have lived here your whole life?
No, she's from
West Side.
She's from West Valley. She's
Okay.
dodging bullets from a
Taylorsville.
young age.
West Valley. Yeah,
I'm
grew
from
up in the hood.
Grantsville,
Wow. Okay.
but I also went to school in
His
West
family
Valley.
sent him to the hood because he was naughty in Grantsville.
I got tossed out of Grantsville, and
It's just hilarious.
then I went to Granger, and then I went to Grantsville again and got tossed again, and then I went to Tooele, and then to
So you should have just
Idaho.
been trans, and then they would have actually.
I
adored you.
might have pulled a B plus down then, maybe.
That's the thing. If we keep celebrating what my
Celebrating.
kid wanted to be a pirate at 4 years old. I didn't lop his leg off, give him a hook arm, and hand him a parrot, and knock one of his eyes out. It's
I'm concerned
it's
about.
our job as parents to lead our kids, and I feel like a lot of our parents now have fallen into this
Well, it's Democrat.
crazy.
I'm sorry, it's Democrat white women that they go to their book club and they are judged by their acceptance.
Or how special their kid is.
Like right now, I imagine there's a book club right now in Massachusetts where they sit down and Florence says, "My kid's gay,"
Florence.
and they all go.
There's no one named Florence in this
They all
age.
go. My little Timmy is coming Tammy, and Florence is ignored.
Right. So
And that's what I think is happening. And that's why this is driven.
It's like I think it's Munchausen by proxy parents. Yeah,
A
I think
lot
that
of
is-
that. Yeah.
I think
and that's
definitely an
terrifying
issue.
to me.
Like that girl, Rose, whatever, it killed her mom.
Okay, wow, random. But yeah, how good is that beer? Because you're taking us on this long trail.
It's a whole story. She just got out. She just barely got out. It was a
Yeah, but we
handful of
don't
years
read
ago.
minds, so-
And her mom forced her to be in a wheelchair for Munchausen's
Oh my
by
God.
proxy for years, and so much that it physically kind of crippled her. And her mom would drug her. So she meets some dude online, has the dude come over, the dude does the damage. Then they run, the dude gets life for it. Rose gets like 10 years. She just got done with her 10 years.
Yeah, but they
She's
both
just
had
got
like
out.
some special
Yeah,
needs
but-
about them. But
Yeah.
they real discovered, I remember that she discovered she wasn't actually sick.
Uh-huh.
And the boyfriend was like,
Rose
gotta
knew
kill
she
her.
wasn't sick because every time they started to find out, mom would pop smoke and move somewhere
Moved to
else.
a different doctor. So that brings me to the idea that, and I'm not going to name names because it's personal for them, but that Munchausen by proxy, there's another side to it, and it's hospitals who take over the parents' job of care, and they're literally kidnapping children from parents in the guise of your child is underweight. When you may have a child that eats like a bird, or a child that's metabolism 1,000 miles an hour, your child has bumps and bruises. Every child has bumps and bruises.
But they get benefits
it's-
from the
the
from the Fed level.
DCFS is getting money from the Fed
Mhm.
for these kids, and these kids, it's like modern day trafficking of these kids, and they're taking them from parents. And what are parents' rights? They've got to get lawyers, they've got to fight hospitals, and hospitals have endless supply of money. And that's a whole thing that's happening here in Utah. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah, this session I worked with Representative Grecius on at least one aspect of this. And it was, when parents get divorced, if a kid has gender dysphoria,
Yeah.
in a lot of states, they'll give the preference to the parents that will affirm the child's chosen gender
Yes.
identity. Representative Grecius actually got a bill. She did a bill where it's a neutral factor. The courts can't give preference to one parent or the other. I think what we actually want is for the preference to go to the parent who will not affirm the child's chosen gender identity. But we can do that in the next. We'll try to.
But no, that's an excellent compromise.
Yeah.
Because man,
Still saves the life
how
of
many
the
kids
child.
are getting hurt? How many? I mean, and it's a tiny proportion. I understand this. Not a lot of kids are getting hurt, but one is too much.
Yeah, no, I
I think the
in Utah
proportion's
it's a lot.
bigger than you think.
Yeah, in
And
Utah
it's
a
only
lot.
growing.
Yeah, when I was at the Pride Festival when I ran for county clerk.
That's when I
Yeah.
found out you were gay. You came on the show, normal dude, telling us about what you want to do as clerk. I'm like, great. And then I see you doing the Pride. I'm like, that's great. A Republican's reaching out. That's great. I was like, that's awesome. I've got lots of friends that are mostly lesbian friends because I worked at Detroit Diesel. But I've got lots of friends, and I'm like, that's great. Reach out, bring people in under the tent, awesome. And then someone said, of course he's there. I was like, what? All
Well,
right.
yeah, so
That's just a sign to you.
I've tried to not make it like, I actually think it can be a plus factor in some ways, but I don't think it should be like, it's not like a
Doesn't define you.
Yeah,
It's not your identity.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
You're a lawyer. You're a man in service to the United States under the uniform. You're that's your Ford out there, right? You're a Ford F-150 driver.
Yeah,
in Utah, that's probably the biggest one.
The last time I came to Tooele was to go to they have the Raptor racing course over here.
Yeah, at the
That's
Utah
cool.
Motorsports Campus.
It's fun.
That's where she works. Yeah.
Oh, really? You work there? I didn't know that. Oh,
We
yeah, I
don't
wonder
have
if I saw
Ford
you when I
there
came up there.
anymore. Yeah, you might have. I
Wow.
bartend and run the concessions, or
Mhm.
used to back then,
Oh,
or
that's
special
cool.
events. I love the Raptor so much.
Yeah.
I love
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was gonna say is at the Pride Festival, I've never seen, and I had other gay friends there with me. We'd never seen that many trans kids in our entire lives. I mean,
Really?
it was crazy, and they all had different flags. And I would actually just be like, "What? Can you tell me what your flag is?" And it would be something like, One of them was demisexual,
Mm.
and I was so then
You had to
what is-
Google.
Are you like, I've got 20 minutes. Come on.
No, I asked. I said, what does that
is
mean? And then the girl says, well, it means that I'm not attracted to someone until I get to know them.
Oh, so you're heterosexual.
So that's what I thought. I
normal.
was like, so that just sounds like normal.
That's normal. That
can't
has
say the
nothing to
word
do
normal.
with sexuality. That's just normal.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think it needs a flag.
Yeah.
Everything needs a flag
Oh.
these days.
Have you ever seen, you remember the TV show Community? Did you ever see that? where they make the flag for their community college and it looked like a butthole star and it said E pluribus anus on it.
Okay. You know what? I
It
don't know
got
where
snuck
your
through the
mind is
vote.
right now.
I haven't seen that show, but
You should watch it. It's
I'll be
funny.
honest, I don't watch a lot
Skip
of
the
TV.
last 2 seasons.
If you want to talk about Roseanne episodes, I'm in. But
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So I always think about my childhood and the teachers that really inspired me,
Remember,
and it
older
being
than us.
a big deal. But I was also a big tomboy all through elementary school. And had the wrong teacher gotten a hold of me and been like, hey, I'm your ally, you're probably a boy trapped in a girl's body, or just the wrong community person, or my parents fed that, I could have been a different person totally. And I think that we're not letting kids actually mature and go through puberty and find out who they are by themselves. Like, that's what's lacking. That rather than being pillars in the community and just being good people and being someone that a child can look up to, or finding what it is in that child that inspires them and moves them, we're filling them up with our ideas. And I think that's where parents are really missing the ball. And I don't know, is it Gen X that's raising the kids? Is it the generation before us, the boomers, that raised, because we were wild animals growing up. We didn't have the supervision we're giving our own kids. We didn't have.
Yeah, we were savages.
Right.
But no, I wonder, well, what I worry about is back then, a young gay kid would have felt like an outsider. In our elementary school days, I think in Grantsville, they would have probably felt like an outsider through high school also.
And would they have told their parents, or would they have kept it to themselves? Because the gay friends that I have that were in high school didn't come out till after high school.
No.
Yeah, I think that's where there's been a big change, right? I think now kids
Which
are
is a
coming out
positive
earlier. I will
change.
say though, if someone comes out and they're in elementary school, I'm kind of the mind, you need to go back in the closet and come out.
Yeah, why
later.
don't you figure it out?
No, that's
that's too
that's
early.
where we need to go. We need to pull aside some uncles and make sure we don't have any dirty little secrets hiding around the family, because a kid in elementary school should not be thinking about those
Sexuality
Yeah.
at
lines.
all.
I mean, unless they're just like, oh yeah, I like hanging out with my best friend Bill. And they say, if I like hanging out, I don't like hanging out with Tammy over there. She always
gross.
wants to play dolls.
She's
Bill
cooties.
likes the football. That's what I like. You know,
Yeah.
that I could, but that's just a confusion where adults are entering a word into an otherwise harmless interaction.
Sexual anything for elementary should be off limits.
Yeah.
And hopefully we got the bills coming through legislature that have stopped, or at least done something in the positive direction to kind of put the kibosh on stuff like the pornography in books or sexual orientation discussions. I mean, that's called grooming.
Yeah, they
according
haven't
to the
done
law.
it. That's kind of one of my contentions here, is that we have a supermajority Republican legislature, and they're on what year? I heard they're going to propose another bill about pornographic books in schools, and I'm not understanding why we haven't solved the problem.
I'm with you. I don't understand either. When you have this majority, it should be, let's go for it, and let's bring normalcy back to community. Let's bring patriotism and safety and liberty back to it. Because I mean, again, your kid goes to school, gun to your head. You don't have a choice. But as parents, we should be absolutely gung-ho about what's going into our kids' mind.
Yeah, I think that some of this is that maybe some of the legislators like the publicity, so they just keep bringing it back. When this could have been solved year one, I'll tell you how you do it. You just say, if you cannot read that book at the public comment period during the school board meeting, it's pulled. Then you just take all the books. I can take genderqueer to a meeting, read it. Everyone's gonna be like, "Whoa, stop him!" Okay,
they will. They'll turn your mic off.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah. But if you notice, like, we don't seem to get that type of a definitive bill on issues like that. And then what happens is when you go talk to voters, they say things like, well, you're just focused on culture war issues. Well, I wouldn't focus on it if we could just solve the problem.
Right.
That's a protection of kids issues.
Yeah. Well,
just
no, I
like
agree
that.
with you, yeah.
That's a straight up protection of kids. Like, I would be super irate if when my son was in second grade and he came home and he explained to me how his teacher explained to him what blank was. You'd
call that teacher a predator.
I would be like, what are you doing? you know.
Yeah.
But see, it's right. You guys, I've talked to delegates all around our county. I love the delegates in our county because they are so blunt. I mean, it's still so small town feel here where they'll tell you where the bear shits. And I love that. Just tell me how you feel. And the majority of them are angry, but they feel helpless. Like it's out of their hands. They're ready to give up.
Honestly, I feel like our government has ran away from us.
And yet they know that politicians speak in sound bites. And so they have to judge, they've got to get to the nitty gritty. And I've never met more people, a bigger group of people that actually they're working so hard to get to know these candidates, and they're doing their research, and they're coming with these amazing questions, and they're trying to get past the sound bites, right? And they're so angry at this point, they're spitting nails, and they're just like, I'm done with this crap. Yeah. And logic needs to speak louder. And what you're saying, yeah, this could be solved. It's like me saying to my representative, you run the bill, because I want to see where all you stand on logic here.
Ooh, that's
either the private party, the Republican Party is either private and we get to choose our own candidates, or HB 54 is just something we have to live with. No, you all decide what we live with. Run the bill. You think it's pornography in books and schools? Run the bill and show me who in that legislature doesn't want to protect my child. Because at this point, it's now or never. Well, look at this cliff we're going off of. Our kids are the collateral damage. And I think so many delegates have just said, to hell with this. I know so many teachers who are like, to hell with this. This is insanity.
Well, I'm going to tell you how the average citizen wins this, and listen to this closely. Goud just laid it out. He had a family member whose child came out and said, I think I'm trans. And the parent said, no.
You're not.
Now eat your corn because you need the fiber, right? And that's how you do it. Strong families are how we get through this. You have dinner time with your child. You spend time with your child. You show your child that parent that cares. That's how we get through this.
Yeah, but then you send your child off to college.
That's fine. Send them off to college. They color their hair purple.
And hopefully
they do whatever, and then they'll
hate you
loans.
for 2 years, 3 years.
But
hopefully they come back. We need strong family values, and we also have to be okay.
You make that child
to call a spade a spade.
You keep those strong family values so that when that child is a senior in high school, he or she feels weird if they don't meet up for that Sunday night important dinner. That one is the one that, like, their friends are like, hey, we're going here. And he's like, okay, you got to wait for me to eat dinner, not because I'm told I have to, but because that's where I feel like I need to be.
Oh, yeah, I would. If my parents lived here, I'd love to have Sunday dinners with them.
Where does your parents live?
San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they live in
paradise. So does my sister. Yeah, it's beautiful down there, but we used to have.
How is San Diego doing?
Family. As what?
Like, is San Diego like LA and San Francisco? They have a poo tracker, and
no, it's not as bad.
Like if you want to get your free needle, you got to go 2 streets down.
Yeah, they're now beginning to, I think, feel some of the illegal immigration issues there, but it's not like LA and San Francisco. It's a little bit more conservative.
Yeah, San Diego hasn't given up like San Francisco and LA.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. San Diego's like how California used to be. It's paradise. It has its issues, but UCLA looks like a third world country in places. San Francisco. Yeah. I mean, I used to fly into San Francisco and stay there to go to Oakland Raider games because Oakland was not safe.
She's also an Oakland Raiders fan.
Now I'll just fly to Vegas because I wouldn't go to San Francisco now. I think it's just sad. It's sad.
It is very sad. My sister used to live in Oakland, so I used to go there pretty often. And it was such a fun, beautiful little city.
And fun.
Now I wouldn't, like, they shut down even some of their best stuff. It just closed. I don't even see the point in going anymore. They ruined it.
And they say because they can't get people to staff. I mean, we stayed at the Red Lion in Oakland, and I worked for Red Lion at the time, and we were told by the concierge not to leave the hotel. I mean,
What?
they said it's not safe.
Like, just stay in the hotel. It's
If you're going to go anywhere, Uber or drive there.
like have them
Because you don't
pick you up.
wanna-
Don't walk.
Yeah, don't walk. And certain parts of the city don't go to after 6 o'clock. Now it's the same in Detroit. I mean, they had a huge police conference while my dad was there. And the taxi guy's like, you know, there are certain parts of this city you don't go in. I don't care if you're law enforcement. I don't care if you're armed. You just don't go there after dark.
Mm.
That's not my truck, is
Somebody's vehicle's going off.
I can peek real quick, right?
I don't know.
That's not me.
Yeah, it's not you. We're good.
Sorry.
So,
Speaking of dangerous neighborhoods.
well, I mean, you know what? I've been
timing.
consistently lucky here. I moved in 2011, 2010, whatever. And when I first moved in, there was a cop on that corner. And as soon as he moved, a highway patrolman went in down there. And as soon as he moved, now I've got a unified police officer around that. And I've never had an Amazon box go missing. I've never had anyone try to break in. It's been a safe neighborhood, but I want to bring it back. So
You live so far away out of the city. I think crime's just too bored to come out.
I know it can't make it.
It's too far.
The junkies,
How do I get out
are
there?
like, I can't wait. I got to get my hit quick.
Uber's almost impossible out here.
They're a bus.
The junkie,
Bus.
the junkie has to pay an extra 70 cents for the Uber, so they can't do it. Anyway, so bring it back. What are we looking at with the future of your court
Yeah, what
issues?
happens next?
Oh, okay. So, like I said, I think number one, hopefully Sylvia will appeal the lawsuit and because that judge's ruling is really dangerous to normal people.
It's dangerous on the precedent, but does
Yeah.
it help Sylvia that he's just thrown it out? So she's no longer being sued, right?
Well, right, except now she's got tens of thousands of dollars of legal
Mhm.
Lawyer
debt
fees.
that Amy Winder Newton should have paid for.
Okay.
And
Because-
also
yeah.
that may be paid for by the state on Amy Winder Newton's
we
side,
don't
right?
know.
And
Exactly.
we get down to the bottom of that. But this precedent really hurts justice as far
Yeah.
as in the future for other people.
Yeah, he completely undermined the bill. And-
The law says that court takes precedence.
Yep, that UPEPA motion first.
So he should have
nothing
given
else.
her a stay, basically.
The stay was automatic. He should have ruled on UPEPA. And the thing is if when I listened to that oral argument, it's very clear that on the UPEPA issue. So, what did you file this lawsuit to? Because she was exercising her First Amendment rights. The answer is yes. I think she met all of the elements to be successful on the UPEPA motion, and that's why the judge didn't get to it. I think he kind of did the Utah way, which is I'm going to make everybody unhappy when they leave the courtroom.
So was that judge have jurisdiction to rule on UPEPA?
Yes, he was required to do. That's
Huh.
the thing.
But
should have
he
done it
ignored
first.
his legal requirements.
Yeah, I think he misinterpreted the statute,
Yeah,
and
I hope that.
yeah. So hopefully, on
that
appeal,
never
they'll fix
happens
it.
with judges. We never see absolute immunity exercised in that
What
fashion.
kind of law are you in?
I do mostly. I have my own practice now, so I do corporate law,
Okay.
and then I can also do litigation as well. We had people. I used to litigate. I litigated for 16 years. I worked at the Department of Justice in the tax division, the U.S. Department of Justice, and then I
Wow.
also worked at the Patent and Trademark Office.
Holy crap, lead
So-
with that, Goud.
I
The
don't know.
DOJ is like huge
Yeah, but
right
he did
now.
the tax division and the patent.
Your eyes will gloss over, but
Like we don't have any like mass murders, none of that.
working
No,
in the
we wouldn't.
DOJ
Yeah.
under which president? Under
I see here
Obama?
on line
Or,
5 you didn't cross the T.
So it's like,
Can you explain to me why
I
you?
think
Who?
Bush. I worked under but I was just like a trial attorney, so I worked under
Mm-hmm.
Bush, Obama, and Trump.
So you're sitting there litigating
Yeah,
on the behalf of the DOJ, which is not just a trial attorney. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really where you get your grit is when in trials. That's
yeah.
where you
So
really learn.
I've tried cases, and actually,
Mm.
even though they're tax cases, they can be really interesting.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure
you'd
they
be-
can.
you'd be
I'm not. I'm
surprised.
just kidding.
I bet.
I'm just kidding.
Especially
I
when
don't
you're
know.
on the government side.
Have
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
You
so-
win a lot, I
yeah.
bet.
I've
Yeah.
been involved in a. The only time I was ever in the courtroom where I sat in the in the front representing shit box was when my second wife died, and it feels like light warfare in there, and just the the litigation part, and I come out of there going, that was kind of freaky.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
But let me.
I was going to say one more thing though.
Yeah.
And if she appeals and the appellate court doesn't fix this mistake, I think then we as citizens have to go back to the legislature and ask them to take this up during interim to fix the bill. Because it was actually Senator Bramble who introduced this and got it passed. He's still in there until his replacement is picked.
Did he retire?
Yeah, but I think that person won't take office until January.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go back to him and say, hey, you were trying to do something.
Does it
The
merit
courts messed it
a special maybe legislature session or something?
Maybe, but we got to get it fixed, because otherwise we're going to have a situation where elected officials, powerful people can abuse people, like what I think has happened here.
Could it be worded in a way that the judge was able to interpret it that way on the up and up?
I'm not going to say that he was being malicious or anything.
No
I think
lawyer wants to say that about a judge ever.
It is the wrong interpretation of that law if you just read it straight. So
if you read it straight, the judge was obviously incorrect on how he interpreted it.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. That's the question. So
I mean, that's a fair statement.
that's sad that a judge is able to do that. I mean, we put you in there. We are going to pay you as a state or a community so that you will read the legislation that's come down by the elected officials and impose that. You're the last line of imposition.
Oh, they are the most powerful.
Yeah, he found he did a little this motion there. What it says is all litigation. If you file a UPEPA motion against me, everything between us is stayed except for unrelated motions. So he said, this motion for joinder is unrelated to the UPEPA motion. But I think that interpretation is wrong. The UPEPA motion was filed because of the motion for joinder.
Right.
Dismissing
snowball effect.
Yeah. And by dismissing the motion for joinder, you're now saying you don't have jurisdiction over the UPEPA motion. They are completely related. They're attached at the hip. So
how is Sylvia's lawyer arguing this? And why weren't you the lawyer? Or is it because you would be a conflict of interest? You're named in this or no?
No, I'm not named as a defendant.
Okay.
I am named as in the actual pleadings. It brings up because her Citizens Committee was looking at what happened with the Utah Log Cabin Republicans.
I see.
And so that's how I'm involved in it.
But you can't defend it, or you just wouldn't.
I mean, I could, but I was too busy.
Yeah, I assume you are.
Yeah, you might get wrapped up in this at any minute.
Yeah, that's true. I could.
I mean, where she's coming out on Twitter or X and saying how you're a bully.
All right, yeah, Amy could be watching this now and getting her next lawsuit ready. The difference is I will defend myself.
How weird would that be if you're a lawyer?
I hope we haven't defamed her in any way through this broadcast. I think you're just speaking what your experience is, and you've got proof.
Yep.
I'll say it right now. I'm not the gentlest on elected officials. I really don't care. I think when you sign up for the job,
you really went out there on a limb.
When you sign up for a job like that, you sign up to I want them to make it so that Congress people do not have private investments, period.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
I'd like them to wear body cams.
That's unconstitutional.
While they're in the Capitol, I think they should all have body cams.
I think they should have body cams all the time.
And we can tune in to each politician's own personal body cam at any time.
Unless they're fitting to go coital with the old lady, they need to have something on. I want to know when they're doing something shady.
During office hours.
But then they'll just do stuff out of office hours. But
that's a definite issue. I mean, even here, right? Our legislature voted to not make their calendar subject to grandma.
Yeah,
that's
that
insane.
means we don't know. Are they meeting with lobbyists before they pass the bills, giving $1 billion to Gail Miller?
When you have the wolves voting on their own pack, I mean, it's like.
Yeah, show us who you're meeting with, because then we can ask you questions about it, right? That's all this is.
And that helps avoid a citizen group that gets together and has to grandma everything or ask you all these questions. Like if you lead with transparency, which is how government should be, then what do you have to hide? You don't need a good memory when you're telling the truth.
There's also another way to deal with all that is the government has zero power.
Well, how's that going to happen there?
Oh, it just
Go out on a limb and tell us how you're going to.
All right.
You haven't mentioned the G word this whole entire
What
show.
what if our state legislature could not give money to any private organization or person? What if our state legislature was there to mandate
Well, you have
only
to.
what's listed in the Constitution?
You
Gail
have to
Miller
pay someone to build roads. You've got to pay someone.
Sure,
And you've got
sure.
all the different.
Sure. And that could be done privately.
It is done privately. You get 3 different, bids.
No.
That's a private company. The state
The money
pays
for the
them.
roads could be managed privately. It could be managed by local community organizations.
How so?
People
Who's
that
gonna
live
pay
on
for
that
public
corner and
roads?
people that live in that corner, they come together and they say, hey, we're going to have a block party this weekend.
And we're going to
Everyone bring
the
your
road.
own meat, and we're going to get together and decide if everyone figures we need to have our road repaved or if they're good with where it's at. And you just have a vote down
And
the
then
street.
what? The poorest communities have the shittiest roads
Could be.
because they wouldn't have. That's
Sure.
insane.
But if that poorest community roads leads into a better community with roads, say Walmart and Lucky's and them would probably pull the vast majority of Main Street's road maintenance. Instead, what we get is we get the state coming together. What was it, 5 years ago, and tearing Main Street up for 6 months because they went with a bid that, honestly, I think this guy might have been a basket weaver in his previous
Government makes
job.
Terrible contracting decisions, but again, you still have to have.
And then they overprice it, and
otherwise, what's
he
your
doesn't.
taxes going
He
to?
doesn't meet his. Let's get started on taxes because I love that I pay for everyone else's crap, and then he doesn't meet his timelines, and so we're left without a Main Street forever. That almost destroyed a couple businesses on Main Street.
Right, but now we've got one of the prettiest main streets in the town, in the county, in the world. Whatever.
That every time before you come in, what are you griping about?
Traffic. And
What have they done?
Lane closure.
Prettiest one in the state.
It's
Run with it.
everywhere. But again,
But anyways,
I wanted to talk about what's happening right now because I think we're gonna get.
we've got some news to talk about. You want to stick around for some
Yeah, do you want to hang out?
news?
Sure.
All right, I have to use the
wanna talk
restroom real
about
quick.
What's happening with Life's Worth Living Foundation?
Yes,
that
I've got to
and
use the restroom real
John-
quick, so I will pull
Thank
it
you.
up for you. And
You don't have to pull it up. We can just talk about it. Okay, or pull it up. So
I have to say this is my homebrew too.
yeah, no more of that. I
Here
think
I
you
mean-
hit your.
Oh, nice.
Did you pull it up?
Wait, so
No,
they're-
I mean.
are they walking
for
from here to
people.
Wendover,
Oh, yeah,
Nevada?
Yeah,
they do it every year.
How
So,
far is that?
I think 120,
Oh my
miles?
god! I thought they were just walking.
100 miles.
That's
So-
far.
If you
Yeah.
don't know, people in people in Tooele County, Life's Worth Living is an organization that started to bring awareness for suicide prevention, and they raise money for it, and they do 100 miles, and they walk to Wendover, and they do it over the course of 2 days. And they have these buses, so people will walk a certain amount of miles, and then they'll trade off with people in the buses, and they go all the way to Wendover, and they do a big celebration in Wendover, and it's to bring attention to suicide prevention. And I'm telling you, Life's Worth Living has just, John Gossett and his family started this, and it's just grown into this amazing community building organization that has just been incredible. And you see this frontage road. I mean, they walk on it and they all get terrible blisters, but they make these memories with just community members, all who have a story where suicide has touched their life in some way. And most of us have a story, right? And you see how many people, it started with such a small group and has grown into an enormous group, and they're raising a lot of money. And so I just have to commend every year, dear friends of ours, a lot of our electeds have been walking this forever, like
That's
before
really
they
cool.
became electeds. And I don't know, it's pretty special. So my hat's off to John Gossett. And I hope that any of you that know someone who's doing this walk, maybe you'll donate, because I know they've asked for, they're raising money with the walk. So every so many miles they're raising, which is pretty amazing.
That's really nice. I hope it stops raining too.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, one of my friends, Chris Sloan, did a Facebook Live on the walk, and it's just pouring. Like you can see the water, and I'm like, okay, the blisters alone get me to go, ooh. But they have a bus, so people can take, they can take as many steps as they need to, or take a rest when they need to. But the people that I know that do this walk, they try to hit every mile they can. It's so special. And the people that you meet and the stories they share are just heartbreaking and also heartwarming. There's hope after. Yeah. So if you are struggling with depression or anything like that, please know that Life's Worth Living is a foundation that will protect your anonymity. You can talk to them. You can participate if one of your children are struggling. The last thing we want is to feel like you don't have any hope. And that's what they're all about. So look into them.
And is there a way, person that you can reach out to get a hold of them?
Yeah, John Gossett.
John Gossett.
He is the chairman of the group. It's his group.
That is a lot of people.
But it's called Life's Worth Living. It's only growing too.
Yeah.
The new group that's going to be finishing tomorrow. I think it'll be finished tomorrow. They started this morning. It goes till tomorrow or Sunday. I think tomorrow.
But they've got the buses that are set up. That really kind of pulls at your heart a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, it's beautiful. And I was telling him the stories that these people share, and they gain so much from each other, that community, and people come from all over to walk in this now. It's not just a Tooele thing. And it's pretty cool. I just think that John Gossett created something magical out of trauma. And so many of us, all of us are touched by suicide in some way, I think.
Yeah.
And so to be able to be with people who understand and who have been through it, and maybe some of worse than others, but it's a community and it's hope. And a lot of parents that have lost children get involved in this, and it keeps them going. And some of them are teaching others how to get through,
building that support group
through hardship. So congrats, John. I know you and your wife this is a labor of love for you. And I know so many of you that are in our community that have helped keep this going, and 100 miles is pretty exceptional. And
that is an understatement. 100 miles is a heck of a march.
It's incredible, right?
That
all the way to Wendover. And then they usually see a concert after when they get there and hit the buffet and reward themselves with a good time. And then take these buses back. I love it. That
is good. I imagine something like that would get kind of how do I put it? It would fill you with a sense of
tradition.
Yeah. I was about to say like an addiction, to where that's something you probably look forward to every year. I
know our sheriff and his wife every year.
Yeah.
Chris and Bernice Sloan.
And the sheriff's department
every year
has a deputy that escorts them. And yes.
It's huge.
Does Tooele County go all the way to the Nevada border?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Sorry, yeah. We're that
second largest.
We're that huge county with 7 people that lives in it.
We have about 76,000 in our population.
So we've got West Valley huge. We go all the way to Wendover. We I-80 down to I think it's the old Pony Express Trail.
Almost Nephi? Would it be almost to Nephi?
No.
Delta? Is Delta in Grand? What?
Juab. Juab is the county south of us, and it goes down to about the railroad tracks when you pass
his turnoff to go to Riverton, so he didn't see the railroad tracks.
Well, no, he went He
No,
went
I
this way.
came up this way.
Yeah, he wanted the
north,
civilized
there's a 80.
route.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
I thought you went the back way.
the railroad tracks when you pass what's that little town down there?
Vernon.
Yeah, Vernon. I think that's where the line is.
Well, and Bridger Bullender represents he
Parts of
represents Juab and us.
Uh-huh.
And then is it Box Elder?
Maybe even some of Box Elder.
That's
Maybe
north of you guys, right?
Yeah, Box
Well,
Elder is a
okay.
county.
Scott Sandel, our senator represents Cache and
Most
Box
of
Elder
you,
and
northern
Tulare County.
Utah. Yeah, he's
Wow.
Yeah, we don't have our own senator here.
Okay, and
which
those are
is
very different places.
Aggravating.
yeah. I hunted up in Box Elder 2 years ago. Then very different places.
And Cache County too. Like they're much more lush, I
Mhm.
would think, than
And they've got a college there, and
A little bit of water,
yeah, right.
just a little bit.
but we're all considered rural. And you know
Mhm.
what? I watched something on the state delegate page where one of the county representatives was saying how in Cache, and she's saying, there's a lot of candidates I didn't even see up here. And I feel her pain because I get so aggravated when candidates don't come to Tooele County. We're literally 30 minutes away from Salt Lake, and you can't get out here. And I understand candidates are trying to hit 29 counties, but every county is important, and especially rural Utah. Like, you need to get rural Utah on board with you because we vote and we're pretty conservative. So I feel her pain. It's almost offensive when they don't come out.
That's what we're trying to do here. Is we're trying to be an avenue for candidates to come on. We offer this any candidate. We don't care your party. We want to give you the offer to come on here, and you don't have to just be running with a Tooele County. I mean, you can be running Southern Utah or Eastern Utah.
We carried
And we don't
Bartholomew
vote on it.
on, and it was a
We
great
will have
show.
you. We'll let you come on. Tell us why you're running. Whatever. Give you as much time as you're willing to give. We want to offer that service.
To educate the populace, because an educated populace is better representation.
It's also good. I think we need more kind of local sources of news that are not the Tribune and KSL and like independent news sources. So
Well,
I think
that's
that's
right,
good.
because we're opposites. My political affiliation, he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
My religious affiliation, he doesn't have one. It's like we can fight but still love each other at the end of the day. And like the Transcript Bulletin, for example, is our local paper.
Mhm.
And I tell you, it is such a blessing because the reporters there, you don't know what side they're on. They just tell the story.
And maybe that's because we're so small and we're not in a constant partisan political fight out here. We're in kind of inner political fighting once in a while, but not in a partisan one where it's and maybe that's why they're like Tim Gilley, he's been great. He just kind of says, this is what's happening. Done. Out
He's
the door.
great. And what's interesting is it used to be an entirely blue county. And
Yeah,
now
we
we're
were-
entirely red.
We were
Really?
a Democrat county. Tooele's got an interesting history. Tooele was mostly populated during, have you ever heard of the Wobblies?
No.
Okay, so around 1900, we had a big immigration push where the mining facilities went to Europe and brought people over to break the Wobbly strike. Wobblies were kind of an original, kind of unionized socialist mining union that went on a big
Sounds
strike.
like you're making it up.
I know it does.
The
And-
Wobblies.
I know it's crazy. The
Sounds
names
like a
back
good
then
show.
are fantastic.
Like
Teletubbies.
Teletubbies or the Yo Gabba
Yeah,
Gabba or
but
the what
they
are
were-
they called? Those the Australian guys. I got to get it out before. We're the Wiggles.
The what?
The Wiggles.
I don't know.
Is it
My
the
kids-
Wiggles?
I think that is one. Yeah.
My kid's
Wobblies.
28. I have no clue about that stuff anymore. I knew Power Rangers. Anyways, so they brought them over and a lot of them populated here. We were I think the first school in Utah to integrate our football team.
Oh wow.
And that year we went and beat the University of Utah.
Okay. Very cool.
That was in
so
40,
what else are you getting at? So
40
we
some
used
anyways,
to be all blue.
so we were
and
blue,
now we're
and
red.
we were almost the seat of Utah. Not us, but Mercer was almost the Utah seat. It was a big mining town. It was the biggest town in Utah for a long
for
time.
the capital.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Mercer was huge. It burned down a few times. They'd rebuild it overnight. But
Okay.
so they brought all the strike breakers from Europe over, and we were blue forever. And now that's why we got all the Varios over here. That's an Italian family, and we got, and now they're the staunchest
Our
conservatives.
last seat was the sheriff's seat. He was the last blue seat, and now
Yeah.
we took the seat, and now we've been red as long as I've been the chair. And I think the Democrats can stomach the conservatism out here, but I know they still would change a lot. They want more programs and things like that.
The
We are
younger
seeing our
ones
homeless,
cannot.
go up a little bit out here. And again, it sometimes has a cause and reaction. Like if you build shelters for the homeless, they're going to come
Yeah.
because mayors will ship them. It's
Like
just what they've always done.
That Harris Community Outreach Center they built.
Yeah, this is what is a little alarming for cities and counties. And then I live in a township. It's not even incorporated. And I like it like that. I like having one form of government above instead of a city and then the county. So we are a mix of small town and then people who have immigrated here as far as from Salt Lake who wanted that small town feel. Then they come out and then they complain about farm animals and stuff. So we're just a really funny bunch. But it's funny how the politics has changed. And it's lucky when you have a form of media that just gives you the news.
Yeah, so that maybe I should take that as hopeful for Salt Lake County, that maybe we can get it to turn red. But I will say on the press issue is a big one because I think, with the press that dominates the state, it tends to be very left wing and obviously
left Republican.
Yeah, they don't
Brian
care
Schott every
they
time
share their opinion in every story instead of just telling you the story.
Yeah.
Every time Brian Schott has talked to me, he's like, "I'm a Republican." Good, I'm not.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, I
Thank you
don't care.
Yeah.
W was a Republican. How did he do?
Yeah.
He was also, I guess, rated as the most intelligent president we've ever had. The IQ studies, he's the smartest.
Yeah.
Who was?
How'd that go? W.
Oh, I'm still mad at you.
W was?
Yeah, he's rated as the one with the highest IQ.
That's surprising.
He played-
Yeah, who's doing the test?
He's did a couple of interviews where he didn't play the oh shucks Texan. He doesn't talk like that normally. It's wild.
I still think he's a doofus. I mean,
he was a turnoff.
we
No,
had to pull
he's-
it the Patriot accent.
He's a
too.
tool.
Yeah.
He's a tool
Multiple
of
wars.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's an international tool. But anyways,
He's the epitome of what Eisenhower warned us about.
120 years ago, the Republicans were the urban left-wing party, and the Democrats were the rural right-wing party. Everyone drink that in.
well,
The
And
Republicans-
Democrats or the Republicans.
The
were
Republicans
against-
were the
slavery.
atheists. The Republicans were the atheist party and the scientific party 120 years ago.
wow.
120. We got to go to Lincoln.
That's when it started.
Why do we have to go to
With
Lincoln?
your-
I just went to the turn of the century.
But Lincoln was religious.
Yeah, but I'm making the point that parties
Change.
evolve and swap as they go along. It happens. It's not a conspiracy when it happens. It's just a change that happens.
Well, it's happening right now. I think the party is
Might be.
changing right now.
I think a populist movement generally leads into the change because right before that change is when you had the silver movement, the people who wanted to do the silver in the late 1800s.
You're killing me, Smalls.
And that was our initial populist movement.
You know,
in the
not all of
West.
us are enjoying beer
I
today.
know.
That's 10%.
I'm drinking water
in
now.
volume.
Dude, that beer, that one glass has my lips done.
No kidding.
So next bit of news we got coming out of the transcript bulletin, Twilla County School District has figured out how to finish these schools. They approved an $86 million borrowing to cover up to 2 different bonds during April 16th meeting.
Great.
So they will be finishing these schools that they started building and got put on a hold up, but they
Which
might still be
schools?
on a hold The one that's down there on the north side of
I thought
Twilla.
they bonded for that last time.
What do they call that? The Temple School? No, well, that got kind of pulled away and put on shutdown for a second because of
Deseret Peak is what you're calling that high school.
I don't know what they call it.
Next to the Deseret Peak
They
Temple.
should call it Temple View. They should call the high school team the Missionaries. Call it a day. But anyways, Temple View High, that'd be cool. But so they are figuring out we should see building coming back there. I know it's been on hold for a couple months now. Also, when we talked to Camille, she said they've had a hard time getting materials, and that was also another part of the holdup. I don't know.
I'm so sick of giving
particulars.
money to schools. I'm so sick of it. I feel like they're doing
Well, we've already
the same thing
we've
wrong
already-
over and over and over. And
sure,
not
but
learning.
we've already half built them, so I'm happy that we will.
Are you? Because
I don't
the
know.
first
It's
bond they got
complicated.
was what, 200 million?
Oh, these
And
are
they
expensive.
can't finish a school with
These are-
$200 million.
And these schools are big and
And they're
fancy.
going to rebond with 170 million. Are you out of your mind? Can you imagine if you built something and had a $200 million budget? Your school would look like a palace. Ours can't even get finished.
Oh, it'd be the Jared Mahal, Taj Mahal. How would I do that?
Can you
Jared
imagine?
Mahal?
Like, how can you not do a high school for under 200 million
Do you
and do it on time?
have is the population here growing really rapidly?
Oh, we're fastest growing in the state.
Right, we are, but we're lacking in junior
There's-
high schools.
I
We're
think
building
it's-
high schools and elementaries, but not junior highs.
I think
That's
it's
another
they're
problem.
building 3 schools. And what they're going to do is right now we run middle schools out here. I think we're going to move to a junior high model where that school is only going to absorb 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it may end up being just 7th and 8th.
Okay.
And so what they're going to do is they're going to keep the junior highs as they are, but just make it so they have a smaller number of students through
I wish they
shipping
would put
more-
them to ninth grade
more younger students.
because our
up
kids
and out.
start high school in ninth grade, and I just feel like it's so young.
Yeah,
to
they
start
get
high
to
school.
play freshman football.
Well, but I don't know how you guys. I had junior high when I was growing up, so 7th and 8th grade. I feel like that was like the worst.
It is the worst.
Yeah.
I
It
did
doesn't
7th,
matter.
8th,
It's
and
7th and 8th
I think
grade.
so that age is just like a bad age.
The-
Dude, it
awkward.
is. It is. Could you imagine being a teacher?
I feel
Never.
so
Could you
bad for
imagine?
them now.
Dude, seriously, those teachers should show up with Kevlars on and a flak
They
vest
need their own cry
and have
closet.
like a 1,000-yard stare.
I would
Yeah.
cry for days if I was a
The
junior
teachers,
high teacher.
the teachers need a cry closet.
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
They are the ones
I
who
feel
should
bad
have
for those teachers.
free coffee, free Xanax. I mean,
Have you guys seen? So down where I live in Riverton. The Harriman High School has had a large influx of non-English speaking students.
Really?
So I think it's illegals, but I think they're calling them refugees. So
Oh.
what that looks like, but it's
Tomato. It's
yeah, 30% of the student
Oh.
population now is.
How does the school manage that?
yeah.
I don't know.
How do
Dual
they do they
languages.
have to hire on a whole bunch of interpreters? How do they manage that?
I don't know. And what is interesting is when I was talking to delegates, the culture in Utah is interesting on this issue because parents would say stuff to me like, well, it's so great. There's so many of these students who don't speak English, and my kids get to experience that and learn about what they went through. And I just, in my head, I think, well, I don't understand how your kids are going to learn if all of the resources are we're now going to spend tons of resources trying to get these kids to learn English. Right?
And then your child is getting left behind essentially
yeah,
because the other children are trying to catch up. This has been going on a long time in Utah. And our governor said we're not a sanctuary state, but he said that just recently. I know the church has always brought in refugees.
And also the Catholic, what is it? The Catholic
charities. That was
Catholic charities. Yeah.
And it's all churches, but you were almost like, I know when my nieces were in school and they were in a really great school, the problem is they did have a lot of non-English speaking kids, and it started to slow down the classes. And my niece was way ahead. So they just bumped her up grades instead of, following.
Mm.
And I think that has its own problems because she started high school, I think, in 7th grade. And so you're like, wait a minute. Do what the charters are doing, move them where they need to go based on what they know, but keep them in the same grade. But when you have this is a whole different animal.
Well, the hard part is they keep redefining what refugee is.
Right.
Well, we know what it is.
You know, and they keep redefining it.
If you arrive in a bus at midnight in some location or on a plane,
or if you rush the National Guard in
That's a
Texas,
problem.
you're suddenly a refugee.
There's not. I mean, they've admitted to letting in, I think, 10 to 13 million
I
people under
know.
Biden.
It's ridiculous.
It might be more than
it's
that.
way more, I bet.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, they're really just illegal aliens, I think. And
How dare you?
I know
You
it's-
bastard.
And I'm fine. If we want to rework our immigration system, I'm 100% for that. I think we need more immigrant workers to come in to fill holes. Sure, we need it because the boomers are all retiring. We need to fill those gaps that the younger generations
We
can't
have to know
fill.
who they are.
I only disagree with you because I think we've actually brought in so many at once that we're not able to absorb it, and it'll end up actually it'll make it so we can't preserve American culture. And
But
It's true.
you know, it's a great thing.
and we don't know who they are.
Yeah, and I've seen it in the Indian community itself. If you look at kind of like when my parents immigrated, it was the 70s.
mhm.
It was very much about assimilation. Your
Yeah.
children should assimilate. We would do Indian things at home, not out in the public and all this kind of stuff. But that has changed where newer people that immigrate, they're not really assimilating. Their kids aren't assimilating. I think that's tragic for them.
It is.
And also where they come from makes a big difference. The Indian culture is a much different culture than, say, Venezuela or Haiti or Ghana. Much different culture. Now, the Chinese, their culture coming over is assimilating as far as it takes to get their special forces in over here.
The Chinese that I know that are Chinese Americans assimilate and they start businesses.
Oh, they do.
Love the American dream.
And I think that's for most
it's
people.
amazing. My
The
mother-in-law was a German immigrant, and I think she did her children a disservice because not only did she assimilate, but she didn't even speak German to her kids. And that's a missed opportunity because raise your kids with dual language would be amazing.
Well,
but she so badly wanted to be an American, and that's what it was about, and it's lost.
Yeah, I mean, like for India, there's like 1.2, 1.4 billion Indians in India. They can preserve the culture just great.
Absolutely.
In the language. So, if you come here, you're coming here to be an American, I think.
India is an amazing place. I think if India gets rid of their caste system, that's the next superpower on earth. Hands down.
I don't know.
I think they've tried to ban it. It's just
In some places, they have tried to ban it.
Yeah,
But in some
places,
parts of India, it's a third world country.
In
Most
some
of them.
People are
places,
starving.
in some places, they've tried to ban it. But that caste system has made them functionally a communist nation. Functionally.
yeah.
And once they get rid of that, and they get rid of the bureaucracy to start business, watch out for India, because Indians are very intelligent. They've been tested. They're intelligent, they're industrious, and they work hard.
Yeah,
that's
but like
why-
they can't fix that country. I would go all my life. It's gotten better, but it is.
It is a third world country.
Last time I went with my dad, we were in a taxi together, and I turned to him and I said, "I'm glad you immigrated." He said, "Me too." Or, "Me too."
But but no, India is one of those places. I think that's the place to watch out for if they get rid of that caste, because the caste system holds them back, because you're not allowed to let meritocracy take over.
Yeah.
So
They've done genetic tests.
But what we're getting back to is the immigrants and coming to America. We can't give immunity to all these people, amnesty.
Yes.
We've got to know who they are, and we got to shut the border down. Period, the end, until we even start reforming anything.
Well, hey, I agree with that 100%. I think, and we've got to change our refugee status that you can't apply to be a refugee within our borders. You have to apply
Like
where you're
the
at
law
or a
says.
country next to it.
At a port of like the port authorities
Yeah.
where they. So tell me what it's like living. So Trent Staggs is your mayor.
Yeah.
How is that? How do you like Trent Staggs?
I like him. Yeah, I think Riverton is really well run. I think needs a little work on the roads sometimes with
Of
potholes,
course.
but I
Yeah.
think that's everywhere. But he's been a good mayor. And I remember actually, I know one of the things that's popped up is COVID stuff with him. And I remember I emailed him during the mask mandates and all that went on. And he was against that kind of the mask mandates. But I think the power was limited because he told me at the time, look, I wouldn't impose a mask mandate, but the county has the authority.
Yeah.
But I've told the police not to enforce it. So I think he's done a very good job.
That's nice that he even answered your email.
Yeah, no, really
That's
responsive.
incredible.
And I found that generally he's been very responsive. So, and I do appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I like Trent every time I've chatted with him and everything else at all the meetups he's been.
I really
He
like
remembers
him too.
he remembers people too. That's a good thing
Yeah.
too.
No, he's a good guy. I mean, we'll see how it turns out.
Your
right?
city
And
has
then-
grown exponentially between Riverton, Harriman. I remember before it was a city. My brother lived in Riverton before it was a city. It was just a place at the end of South Jordan, and how it's grown just so rapidly. And
Yeah.
it's incredible because you see, the incorporation does a lot, and it brings in new faces and new people, and it also brings its own problems. And taxes are always a big deal. Harriman was the tiniest of towns. You remember you had to go clear back to the mountain, and they had that little tiny park in the middle. And now you don't even recognize it. It's just high density housing right off of
I knew
Bangor.
people that lived in Harriman that lived in a shed up the mountain, and that was the place we would go. And when we go in
Did you hunt up there?
into Salt Lake and get drunk the next morning, we wake up and we would go out and do some target practice at moving
You
targets.
used to could.
Yeah.
Now
was
it's
interesting.
just so busy.
Yeah,
so.
he moved from there. He moved to Magna right there, road that goes between 56 and the one west. That he moved
The Mountain View
to
corridor.
right next door to where my grandma used to live on that little
Interesting.
whatever that road was. Like I see him, I'm like, what are you doing here? It's after my grandparents moved into the managerial homes. I don't know what they call them.
Okay.
But
This
I'm
is really fun.
yeah, but
This,
what I was going to say though on this, actually Magna has a really great July 4th parade. Totally recommend it.
Yeah?
I don't know what it is. They know how to do a parade really well.
and it might be
awesome.
that
Yeah.
old town
I think
where they do it
so.
on Main
They're- and
Street.
they're-
Magna
the
gets a
people-
bad rap.
Yeah, the people there are really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say on the sanctuary state issue, I actually think that you have to kind of go through each of these laws that they keep passing to see who is eligible for the benefits. So one example is I was looking at HB 215, the Utah Fits All Scholarship. I don't see a restriction there restricting that to citizens and legal immigrants, for example. And so that would be a question. There were some other, I remember emailing a senator asking about a program, I think, for new business starts and the state now doing this. I was like, well, is there a requirement that you have to be a citizen or a legal immigrant to get
Because this
this?
is getting state money.
Yeah. And I don't think there was. He was like, oh, that's something we can look into. And so
That
this
should
is
be
the
common sense.
yeah. And I would say I'd be okay with restricting some stuff to citizens because we should give our, the people that are our kids, the ones that are born here, like some preferences. And we don't do that at all. And this is the only place they'll get them. No one else is going to give you a preference.
Yeah, I think there should even be scholarships and business loans for immigrants exclusively. For that same reason, every other thing should be, anything that involves tax dollars should absolutely be a citizen.
Yeah.
I think it just encourages even people who came over here, however they came over here. If they go and they learn to be a citizen and they pay the money or they do whatever they can do, I mean, it encourages them for that American spirit. And I think that anything we can do to get people to adopt to that spirit and that culture, because we are a melting pot, it's what makes us great. But we also have to assimilate.
But the citizens that make us great, right?
Absolutely.
And that is that you can come here, you can become an American, but we want you to assimilate and adopt our culture. I don't think we want it the other way around. I mean, obviously there's aspects of other cultures that are great, but
Yeah.
you're coming here. And America is it's
For a
very
reason.
special place. It's very different.
You don't come here to wreck it and turn it into the third world country you came from.
Yeah.
It does seem like there's a concern that they're diluting that.
No kidding.
I'm not trying to sound rude, but it does.
No, you're absolutely right. Look at the crime that's gone up in these cities that have been bombarded. And it's not a specific race of people. It's just people who've come here illegally now. It's not
I'm wondering if
one country. It's a series of countries, a series of age and sex. It's males that are in their early 20s and teens.
Also, I think the police getting demonized after George Floyd drove crime. Well, it's proven they drove crime rates up. We had a huge spike across
they
the
wanted
nation.
to defund police.
The week of. It's crazy. The spike the week of in every city.
Well, they set the whole
the George
city's
Floyd
on
thing?
fire for the whole
The
summer.
week of George Floyd, and it's wild. Yeah.
I mean,
No.
people were rioting after George Floyd almost immediately, and they didn't stop till late September.
I wonder, would that have happened had we not had the COVID lockdowns, do you think?
I feel like it wouldn't have. And part of it was people were locked in their homes.
I think we made them caged animals for too long.
I think the hypocrisy of the left giving permission to 100,000 people to riot and protest in a city while masking kids and putting them in their schools, or not letting them go to school and not letting you go to work.
You mean
that
Lightfoot?
Hypocrisy was so insane that I still am blown away that Americans didn't just put their foot down then and go, you know what, we're done.
Well,
We're done.
you've got Lori Lightfoot not only shut everyone down from any kind of gathering, but then she went
got her
out
hair
and
did,
protested with the protest. And then Fauci said it's a super spreader event unless you're dealing with the, what did he call it? The real super spreader event, which is white supremacy and police violence.
White supremacy, and yet rioting is not a super spreader.
It's insane that
Nancy Pelosi could get her hair did, but I couldn't go to get mine. And they go to restaurants, and the dirty laundry in California for the governor is just fine.
the dirty laundry,
Is that what it's called?
the French laundry.
French laundry.
I was like, that's an interesting name for a restaurant.
That
Dirty
sounds
laundry.
terrible,
The
actually.
dirty
But
laundry.
even French laundry sounds gross to me. Why would I eat a place that has the word laundry in it? Thank you for the correction, though.
When this all started,
Y'all knew what I meant.
I lived in Dallas at the time, and there was actually a woman who owned a hair salon who stood
Yes.
up and she kept it open. I always have trouble talking. It gets me emotional because it takes you back there. It's like you have this. There's a. I think I'm just like PTSD from that. And I went and I protested. It was kind of what woke me up to.
They arrested her.
They arrested her. They
Is
threw her
that when
in jail.
have you always been a Republican, or how did that come about?
I was a Democrat for a while,
Uh-huh.
and then when the Democrats, I'll tell you guys the story. In 2007, 2008, I helped Hillary Clinton's campaign.
You son of a.
And
Just kidding.
before I knew the truth about
You
her.
were in your 20s, though, right? Because if
I
you're a
think-
Democrat in your 20s,
Hey,
you
maybe
have
early-
no, or Republican
Yeah.
in your 20s, you have no heart. And if you're
Oh.
a Democrat after, you have no brain. But
Well, I mean, Hillary Clinton's a killer. I wouldn't have stood in
When
the
you
I
way.
were-
didn't
for
know
the-
that at the time.
when you worked at the DOJ, though,
Well, no, you
was it not allowed to talk about your political?
No,
like, did
people-
you register as a Democrat and
Yep.
work in the DOJ without any concern?
Yeah, there's restrictions on what you can do, but I would go volunteer for the campaign, make phone calls.
You just couldn't run as office because of what is the Hatch?
The Hatch Act, yeah.
Hatch
So
Act.
you can't run for political office. You can't raise money for them. So I would call when they went through the primaries. Well, when they nominated Obama, I was a moderate Democrat, and I told my friends, I was like, "That guy's a socialist. I'm out." And I ended up that kind of started me down that path.
Yeah, Obama's what got me going to.
Yeah, and then I ended up becoming a Republican. I've probably become more conservative over time, just as I've understood better. I think the founders and the framers were conservative. And when you kind of understand where they came from, and they're brilliant. If you really think of
it is brilliant.
we don't have anyone today, I think, that even comes close to that type of brilliance. And when you understand that, when you understand kind of human nature, I think it helps too. So maybe that comes with age.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But you lived in Dallas and you were there during the lockdowns and you saw this woman get arrested
Yeah.
and it drove you to stand up for her.
Yeah. I actually, when she reopened her salon, I went and I got my hair cut. I had a job interview for the job that I ended up getting that moved me here.
Oh, cool.
And then, yeah. And so
I remember your lieutenant governor down there became a personal hero of mine.
Yeah.
Because of what he said on, what was it, CBS? When he said, I've lived my life. I'm an old man. He's what, 54? I'm 54. Yeah. I've lived a full life. Don't steal my grandkids' lives. Yeah. When he said that on TV, I was like, oh, that guy's awesome.
He's good. Yeah, he's better than the governor.
Abbott is governor by committee. But that guy came out. And he actually posted bail for that lady.
Yeah. So I went and I protested for her. I went to jail. I had signs in my yard. I actually have them on my.
You went to jail?
No, I went and I protested
at the jail,
supporting her.
I was like, man.
And then I had signs in my yard, and I actually had a picture of it. She's running for state senate or something, and I tweeted at her like, "Hey, I hope you win."
That's awesome.
Yeah, because it was a really like I said, it gets me a little bit emotional because that was such a ridiculous time, and it showed just how many people will just go along with whatever the government does.
And our kids were used as casual, just the fallout of what's happened to our kids and how it affected them. You're a grown man during that time and you still feel that PTSD. I'm thinking, what damage did I do to my kids? But I didn't let them. I pulled them out of school a week before they closed school down because I just knew something was coming. I was really weird. It was really weird. But I'd already had COVID in 2019. They didn't know what it was. My son had it. We went to Disneyland for Christmas. We both came home sick. I was sick for weeks. And I even go to work. I went and stopped at the clinic and got myself a mask to go back to my first day at work. And everyone laughed at me and they're like, what's going on? And I just said, whatever I had, you don't want. This is January of 2020.
Wow.
And then in March, I'm up at legislature and I come home. My son's having his birthday on the 8th and he was sick on his birthday. And it was the same thing. And I was like, I'm going to keep you home because I don't want you going to school with this, but I'm going to keep my daughter home because I don't know if she's got it or if she's going to spread it. But whatever this is, I don't like. They got over it really quickly, but that was the 8th. It was a Sunday. On the 9th, I pulled him out of school. I went to the school to get all his homework on the 11th, and one of his teachers sees he's in a mask because it was hell. It was hell. And she says, what, Holly, you got the corona? Because it's just come out. And I'm like, I got the corona. I got the tequila. It's in my truck. It was a joke. We needed the homework. I'm not sending him back until we get this figured out. And it just felt wrong. It was the 15th where they shut everything down.
Wow.
And I just went, and my husband's like, how on earth did you? And I told my kids, get all your books because we're going to learn at home. I don't know what this is. And I don't like how the governments are acting. And it felt like every time Fauci would talk and then the president would talk after, and then Fauci would stab him in the back the next day. I'm like, this is sick. This is sickening. And it just felt like it was all by design.
Well, Fauci had to cover his butt because he was a part of that.
Well, they had to take down a president and an election.
I think Fauci covered his butt because he was implicit on making it. My thoughts?
Well, Rand Paul actually has been absolutely on point. Saying. The fact that we funded this in a lab and the Obama administration funded it in a lab, and it didn't and they let people think that someone ate bat soup and then spread this disease.
Well, the Obama administration didn't fund it in a lab. They made it illegal. So Fauci and his cadre went and rewrote the order and slipped it through.
Yes, but it's Obama's departments that all paid for it. It's all tracked back to that administration.
But it goes to Fauci and what was that guy's name from EcoHealth Alliance? And
Fauci's the highest paid.
Rewriting it. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. They wrote it so that it wasn't gain of function because Obama made it illegal to do gain of function.
In America. Keywords. And all these
Well, they made it
labs-
illegal for the U.S. to support and pay for gain of function. So
That's
they wrote
interesting.
it so that it's not gain of function. So I think Fauci, if we had an honest reckoning, he would be in jail.
Oh, he would be
Yeah,
hung for
he should
treason
be,
and war
yeah.
crimes.
Yeah,
I'd be, jail, hanging. I'm good
You're
with
good
either.
at jail.
Ukraine has a research lab.
I mean, we could bring back the guillotine.
China
Remember
has
the
research labs.
last guillotining in the world was in France. I want to say in 78 or 9.
Then just say it. If you
I
want to
was
say it,
alive.
say it.
1979?
Yeah. I was alive when the French last dropped that blade.
Wow.
What on who?
I can't remember. I'd have to
That
look it up.
seems kind of barbaric.
Yeah.
Really, the guillotine was invented for the humane way to do it.
Wow.
Cut your head off and
I guess it's instant.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but they say your brain would still function for a few seconds afterward.
Well, it's named after a doctor, 77.
Wow.
It's named after a doctor, Dr. Guillotine, although there's
Okay, what's
conspiracy as
his
to whether he
name?
did it. He invented it
Nope, say his name.
to Dr. Guillotine to make
No,
this guy.
This guy.
Hamida the
Nailed it.
the Gen
Last person
Doobie?
lawfully executed by
Yeah.
beheading.
Mm.
You know, the thing I wonder, that I was talking to someone yesterday about this, is if COVID happened again, do you think anything would be different this time around?
I sure as hell hope so.
Yeah,
I'm appalled, though. I'm appalled that more people weren't rioting for their rights.
Here's what
or
concerns me.
even willing to, at this point, like, I think, 22 was actually like a really incumbent friendly election, which surprised me
Yeah.
because you would think people would want to throw some of these people out.
Yeah.
And we haven't actually, I don't think we've gone through and gotten rid of a lot of the laws that they
No.
put in place. So,
And they're still spending like it's COVID era.
yeah.
They're
What-
spending like COVID era spending. We're not back to even pre-COVID spending. And that's what's making me so upset because we know what they did. And we know even our side was locking our kids up.
Yep.
Our side was running the COVID task force was run by our governor. And we know what we didn't know. So that hindsight, I totally give that forgiveness on a lot of these politicians. But the one thing I can't get over is Kristi Noem saying, the entire time this was happening, I was looking to my administration and saying, you show me in the Constitution where I have any rights to shut this economy down, to make this mandates. You show me where I can do that and I'll do it. And never could they. And yet she's the only state that didn't shut down.
Well, remember, Whitmer shut down the selling of seeds.
Yeah.
But
Heaven
no,
forbid you take care of
here's-
yourself.
here's a
Yeah,
big concern.
insane.
What if the next thing is real and none of us believe it?
So that it will be. There'll be
Yeah.
something real and we won't believe
That's
it
a concern
because we
too.
don't trust our
Not that we
government.
lean into it, but that we ignore the alarms.
I think I think if you have another virus, I think 100% people will believe it and nothing will change.
Really?
I think it would be
Ooh.
essentially exact same play.
That's a tough because
all
out
over
here,
again.
if you come out here and hang out, you won't believe that. Because
Well, maybe.
everyone,
Our
and
people
maybe
fought
we'll have
against
that
it.
split, urban rural.
We might, but I think we had that before, right? I mean,
We
but
did.
We were totally
Yeah.
open out here.
Yeah,
But you go into Salt Lake and it was not that way.
yeah, we were savages, and they
Even
wanted
our-
me to wear a mask to do drive through it at Beans and Brews. I was like, "Are you?"
And our electeds were kind of going with the mandate because it was suggested by our health department.
Yeah, they wanted
but
to.
the public showed up in such
The
huge
public
amount that
and
it
the
was
sheriff.
and our sheriff.
Never mind.
He
The
said,
sheriff said, "I'm not. My officers aren't enforcing any of your rules.
especially
We're law
outside.
enforcement."
No. And so, yes, sadly, you're probably right because it is bureaucrats that run this country and they love to take power away from
Mm.
citizens. And if we did have another virus, I think you're right that if it is a deadly virus,
It'll
we
kill
would
off
see a civil war of
it'll
people.
kill off the rural population, and only urban blue will be left, and then they will be happy. And if it's fake,
There's no way. If there's a virus,
well, the
urban's going to go fast just because of the way things are set
but
up.
they all wear masks and have those
Masks don't
little
work.
metal things that they push the elevator doors. I those things. I still see those for
What?
sale once.
That was a real thing.
Yes.
Those are used
They-
in meetings to
they-
point out boards and stuff.
They all ran and bought those. Those became somebody is a genius. He put his CNC machine to work and just started cutting those little things so you could push the elevator button, and it doubles as a beer opener. I mean, if you're ingenuity.
Maybe that's the issue, is that you have to think about is how do you make money off this stuff, right?
Dude.
So like SB 54, for example.
Yep.
Maybe instead of complaining or wanting to change it, we should all start a little signature gathering business.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the big people making money are out of the
Seriously.
state.
Yeah, like,
And they're
we
like,
should make the
oh
money.
my gosh.
Seriously.
And candidates start their, like, as a candidate, why wouldn't I start a
Adam
business
Carolla
and
says it
charge all
best.
the other candidates?
Yeah.
He says the way to be politically happy is to know how to make money under any politician. So
Maybe that's what we do, and then we can use our money to go and fund the politicians to get rid of SB 54, right?
Yeah.
no, but we're building a business off it.
So now
we want to
can't
spread
we
it.
gotta
We
stay
want it
principled.
everywhere.
Yep, we stay within our principles. We follow laws
Yeah,
and
seriously.
then we change them.
So another thing I wanted to talk about today is what is up with all the people burning themselves to death? What is going on there?
Well, there's only been like 3 or 2.
I thought there was just that one guy.
Only 3. All of Vietnam, they only had 1 Buddhist monk. We've had 3 in a year.
Oh wow! I
Hey.
didn't realize that.
It's a way to go, and it makes a big scene. We also have a lot of shootings.
Self-immolation has to be the worst way to die.
But mass shootings, you go in there knowing you're probably dead.
Sure, and that's a lot less painful. But so you had the guy outside of Trump's trial. Crazy. This guy was a crazy left-winger, like heavy conspiracy left-winger when you look into it. He believed like he was an anti-Clinton Democrat because he think Clinton was the evil Satan incarnate.
Hillary
Didn't like Trump. Yeah.
probably
did-
not a. That's funny though. People don't like Hillary, but they loved Bill. And I loved Bill
I
Clinton
think-
when he first ran.
I think
I
Bill
loved him, but Hillary is the Antichrist to people.
Bill is the puppet Hillary used to gain power.
Yeah, but I think Bill.
Although Bill
is
liked to bite lips awful hard in hotels
Bill
without
Clinton
permission.
had charisma.
Oh yeah,
He could talk to
played the
anyone,
saxophone.
and I don't think he was a puppet per se.
Was
in
a
his
rapist
first
when he
2
was
years stuff.
A Rhodes Scholar.
People really liked him because he was pro-police in a time where Democrats weren't. He wasn't pro-military per se, but I didn't see him as a puppet of Hillary's.
Well, Bill Clinton was the last of when Democrats crossed the line between rural and urban. He was the last one when Democrats crossed that partition, which why Bill carries a lot of popularity. Also, while he's president, we had the internet come along, which caused a boom for the economy,
Boom.
Sure.
which allowed us to pay down the debt. So
And he
We had
wasn't
a-
the worst guy.
we
He did
had a-
welfare reform.
he
had
did
some
well for
significant stuff.
yes.
So
Bill Clinton wasn't bad.
Yeah, he balanced a budget.
Hillary,
yeah, it's like the only time, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, Hillary's a psychopath that's, sacrificing to Moloch. I mean, she's a whole different animal. I think Bill was led around by her. He was a target. But you got that guy outside of Trump's trial. He left behind a manifesto that was wild. I've heard a lot of people
Okay,
talk
this
about
is
it.
the guy I heard about recently. So it was not 3. I think it's
There
2
is
people.
3. There is 3. And then you've got before him, you got Bushnell, the Air Force guy, outside of
It's
the
because
Israeli.
mental illness is rampant in this country right
It-
now.
And
I
you
think
could be right.
COVID
And
Is part of it.
I'm going to tell you as civility, self-immolation is better than mass shooting.
Absolutely.
But
I'd rather see this.
I would rather not
than
see
a school get
self-immolation.
shot up.
Immolation is huge. It sends a huge message. And then before that, the end of last year, you had another guy immolate himself. And I think he was another military guy who did it. So
Hey, this is putting your money where your mouth is, because I see
Oh,
college kids and their hunger
seriously.
strike, and I'm like, as soon as
Seriously,
that camera's
this is-
off, this is like, hey,
you got the guys
I need
that
this
glue their
attention.
hands to the road, which I have laughed at lots of times. That one in Germany was fantastic.
at the racetrack where they took part
Yeah,
of his
where he
hand.
glued his hands to the road. He ended up losing his hand because the glue, they can't just chip it off.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's that, or you walk
It
around
is.
with a huge piece of asphalt on where they had to cut it out. But I'm sorry, you play stupid games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this self-immolation is a huge thing. I remember as a kid, of course I wasn't alive during Vietnam, but I remember the impact of reading the story of that Buddhist monk who immolated themselves in, I want to say it was 66, because the president over there was anti-Buddhist. He was a Catholic, and I mean, I wish that monk would have held on a few years later because the CIA had him killed. But anyways,
I still don't understand why or how this helps anything. This story talks about that second, but it goes back into Trump again in the trial.
This guy in his letter, he is a hardcore leftist, like conspiracy, like QAnon for the left. But he spends more time degrading Hillary Clinton and very little time on Trump. But he has a hard time with the way our nation seems to be separating down political ideologies.
So get involved. Don't burn yourself to death.
Well,
this doesn't help anything. I mean,
it doesn't.
I already had forgotten about this until you brought it up.
And
So
you won't remember what his manifesto
it's crazy.
said.
The Air Force guy is a crazy one. And we need to put a note out. If you see someone self-immolate, don't try to put them out. You're just extending their suffering.
And I actually appreciate, I mean, this sounds awkward, but I appreciate that they don't hurt other people in the act. I think I have a lot more respect for that than somebody who is going to go suicide by cop and take out as many as they can. I think that's cowardice at 100%. The highest level.
100%.
You said something interesting earlier about kind of the mental health crisis in the country. That's something I've been wondering about as well. It does seem like we have a lot of people who have issues, and it does also seem like that has escalated since COVID in a way that is, I don't understand it.
You can't alienate people, and you certainly can't make them feel alone. And not only that, you take their security away, their liberties away, and then you decide who's essential. So you get to choose which people actually can earn a living. There's so much that the economy will reflect on how a country is doing. Even when you have a healthy economy and lots of jobs, there's less crime. There's all races are doing successfully, and they're coming out of poverty, and you're growing the middle class. You're not shrinking it. You're growing it, and you're shrinking the lower class or whatever. You get into a place like that where the economy's been just put on hold, and all these people have been organized into what they are, and the government is actually lying to you, and something's off, but then the people are against each other.
Well, I feel like we've had that mental issue coming up prior to that. And could it be just that certain parts of the US want to lean into people's mental issues, like with the transgender thing and all that? They're leaning into it. Could it be that? Could it be that we spent 20 years that if you went into a doctor and said, hey, I'm feeling depressed, and the doctor didn't say, are you getting enough exercise? Are you getting enough time in the sun? They said, here, take this pill.
Right. No, I think you might be right on that.
I think that's a huge part. Just like with the opiate crisis, our doctors became a tool for the pharmaceuticals to get into the pockets of the consumer.
They still are.
Yeah.
Look at any television show. You'll see a pharmaceutical commercial every time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The NFL brought to you by Pfizer. And that was all Super Bowl. The halftime show
your
brought
COVID
to you by Pfizer.
Task Force brought to you by Pfizer.
It was all brought to you by Pfizer, and that's everything. I mean, Fox News. Why do you think Fox News feels untrustworthy lately? And I'm talking over like the last 3 years. And it's not because they got rid of Tucker, not because of all that. It's because every time they told you who they belong to it at the lead off at every commercial break.
Yeah.
I want to bring up a happy fun story real quick, though, because we don't have near enough of those. This story.
Yeah, you think it's happy fun. I think it's insane.
This one's a happy fun.
How do you
one.
Accidentally
Okay, so
ship your cat?
So this lady, her cat comes up missing, right? So she gets, the whole neighborhood comes together. They scour the neighborhood, scour the house for her cat. They can't find it. She's got blue hair. The cat's her emotional support cat. Whatever.
I love the blue hair. I used to try to dye my hair blue in college.
I'll bet that was hard.
It's very hard. Yeah, I used to always turn
You could only
green.
see it
You
in
could
the
probably
sun.
go red
No, so my friend, they bleach it and then they do it and it would turn green.
Oh yeah,
'cause yellow and
I mean,
blue
you
make
could
green.
probably go red because that's a dominant color that could take over maybe some black, but blue.
My son has
And
really
I'm not
dark hair,
saying-
and he wanted purple hair, and my hairstylist is like, no, because I have to totally bleach it out
Yep.
to add the purple tone. So what I'll do is I will add it in to his hair went really dark and it was purple, but you could only really see it in the sun, and it looked awesome.
That would actually look cool though.
It
Like
looked
those
awesome.
paint jobs on cars that are green, copper.
Because his school has a rule, you can't have
I love
unnatural
that
hair
color.
colors. But they didn't say anything about his hair color because it had to be outside before you could even see that it was a different
Now
color.
I feel like I'm too old. Like a 46-year-old man with
seriously.
blue hair would be just.
But you can come back around into it when you hit 60s, and it's that
That's what I
fun
get.
retirement age, right?
Can you though?
When you want to, that's when you join the nudist colony
Ew.
and start doing
At 60?
weird Mexico. You've been to a gym, right? There's always that 60-year-old that's just real
60?
inappropriate in the locker room. You're like, dude,
I'm thinking 70.
like you don't have to prop your leg up on the sink.
I don't think you get the effort factor till you're in your 70s.
I don't know. I'm hitting my stride in my
Remember, that's like my father.
40, late
In the
40s.
70s, like, does not care.
He
'Cause they
doesn't
have
care. Dude,
Zero to give at this
old
point.
men, they're like, I sacrificed. I raised my kids. My turn.
Yep.
And I agree with them. Anyway, so this lady, so they really come together and look for this cat. And 5 days later, I think it's five. I'm not going to read from. So 5 days later, they get a call, and it's a very cute cat. It's calico, has the hair. We'll scroll down and show the cat's face on there. Look at that. That is a very cute cat. They get the call from California. Hey, we've got your cat here. It came in an Amazon box.
You shipped it to us.
So what happened is she was sending back. She ordered a whole bunch of work boots for her husband to try on. He finds the one he wants. They kick off the other 4 back, which is a good idea because work boots. I don't know if you're doing any manual labor.
We got it. Go on.
Your boots are extremely important. Anyway, so the cat dove in the box because cats do, because they're curious little
They love
turds.
boxes, huh?
And
Empty boxes.
They closed it up and shipped it. It went to California, so she finally got her cat back. But how wild is that? The cat went like 4 days without food or water.
Wow.
They used to ship children via mail, U.S. Postal Service.
Really?
Yep.
What?
You could ship a child as long as they were under 50 pounds.
Like going to see grandma.
And it was cheaper than putting them on a train. And the Postal Service would have to sit with them in the train when it was being, the postal man actually watched out for them while they sat in
You bring
the
them.
train.
Kids wander around, got like 30 stamps on the side of their
They
head.
had stamps actually sewn onto their clothing or pinned to their clothing.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Oh, that is wild.
That's interesting that they lost. I one time I actually lost one of my dogs in my house, so I can sympathize.
My dog's easy.
You did?
My
Did
dog
he get trapped
is.
somewhere?
No, she was dead. I have a big
You
dog.
live
that's
in a mansion.
not a mansion, but it's a big house for a single guy. But I have an Akita, and then I've got a little dog, and she's 40 pounds. But I think she was in the utility room with me
He
when
had
I
to
left.
correct that. He met my dog a minute ago, and he goes, "No, that's little."
I closed the thing. I closed the door and I left. And then like 30 minutes later, I heard barking. I was like, where's that barking? I haven't seen Ricky in a long
Oh,
time.
no.
So I just like locked her down there.
Oh, my dog gets lost all the time. She's gets locked in a room because you don't see her. She's almost 4 pounds.
I have a big German Shepherd. He's under my feet
Yeah.
all the time.
Mm.
So I don't think I could lose him.
Akitas you could lose. They don't bark a lot.
No,
So you could, if you
they're
locked him in a
very
room, he would-
smart,
he would just be
trainable
quiet.
dogs.
Oh my gosh.
You'd be like, where's the dog? And they
I
like
need a
thick and
smaller
little
house.
loners.
Mm-hmm.
So if he disappeared for a few hours, it wouldn't be any
And they
big
have
deal.
the coolest eyes. Akitas, I really like Akita dogs. So do you guys, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was in
Yeah, this
2021
was ridiculous.
when the FBI raided this safe deposit box company. They had
a warrant.
they
for
had a
one of
warrant
the
to
box-
look into
the business itself.
the business itself and one of the business's customers, and they ended up going through everything.
Oh, they seized everything.
They seized everything and did that old civil asset forfeiture on everyone's box in there.
They took millions. Was it $1 million or $1 billion? Because
It
people
wasn't
had gold. They had jewelry.
It
they
ended
had
up not being
stocks,
$1 billion,
bonds.
but yeah.
But these people, and then they just kept it. And the FBI is
And the
like,
courts-
sorry, you're doing business with criminals. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know they're criminals. And this is my contract states that I have a secure box to
Yeah.
store my stuff. So they've been in court over this.
The courts kept backing up the FBI on this, which the civil asset forfeiture needs to be done away
crime.
with yesterday. And that's coming from Holly. Holly supports the blue 100%.
Absolutely.
Civil
That
asset
is
forfeiture
crime.
needs to be done away with. But anyways, they finally won in an
Okay.
appeals court.
$100 million in cash.
Yeah. And
Wow.
the coolest thing about it is one of the lawyers or the judge brought up that this is just like writs of assistance. Do you guys know what writs of assistance is? That was during the Revolutionary War. That's where our Fourth Amendment comes from.
Oh, okay.
Writs of assistance was what the British Army would use. They would write up a lieutenant would write another lieutenant a warrant, a writs of assistance to search someone's house. They never went before a judge to get it, but they brought that up. But they finally won. For anyone out there who wants to support this, it's the Institute for Justice. They are mostly a left-leaning organization, but I think they do good things. Sometimes, I mean, this is a fight that everyone needs to go through because you want to have that Fourth Amendment on your side.
This is absolute. This is just criminal. I mean,
It is.
to go in, and this is why the FISA courts that, I mean, you can't challenge. This is like driving. If I want to go buy a classic car and I save my entire life and I'm buying in Vegas and they want cash only and I get stopped
Yeah.
by UHP and they can just take my $60,000 in cash and call me a drug dealer, never charge me with a crime.
Never even
Never-
call you a drug dealer. Just take
They
it.
take it because we'll get it back to you if we find out you're not involved in crime. And then
You've
you
got-
never get to go to trial.
You've got to go.
nothing.
You've actually got to set up and put yourself on trial to prove you're not a criminal.
And
to
you have
get
to
it
hire
back.
a lawyer and you're taking on the state. And these officers, now I understand, they split it with whoever. It goes towards more police and it goes towards more equipment and all of that.
I think it's.
But it's absolutely a crime to me.
I think they kick. What is the
There is-
numbers? It's
They share it.
they keep 35% and the rest gets kicked up to federal to be dispersed. Something
federal
like
is-
that.
It's whoever gets called in. So if the UHP seizes it, UHP keeps it. But if they call in the DEA or they call in the FBI as a second, they share it.
Oh, no, I don't think the UHP keeps it all. I think they kick it up federally, but they get to keep 35%. And then
I
if
think it
other
just
groups,
depends on who's involved.
I think, but it is.
And if you won't go with the warrant, it's like a warrantless search, and you're like, no, I got my glove
Take
box
it.
locked and my trunk locked. They'll call in the dogs
yeah.
and they'll keep you there. And it's almost like, of course, if I have cash and I'm going to buy something, cash smells like drugs. Of course it does. The hands that it touches, and you don't get a. You don't
Didn't
get
they-
a shot in hell. It's not illegal to travel with large amounts of money.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
a rumor that all $20 bills have cocaine and boogers on it?
I don't think it was boogers. I think it was something from a crack. Like,
Cocaine and boogers. I mean, those are the two things they touch.
They that's really I remember delegates have brought this issue up, and it is something I think that Utah needs to deal with.
yeah.
And so and then I'll just say in that photo, was that taken before they won their case, because that couple looked really unhappy.
Yeah, that was before. That was
True.
that was the photo. They actually
so funny.
they
They
mostly
don't
were.
look happy at all. It's because they're broke. It costs them a ton of money already to fight it.
Yeah, and you should get your attorney's fees if you win a case like
Absolutely.
that, right? Yeah.
Good.
The
Good.
Marine that lost his money from from Nevada to Utah,
Yep.
he had to fight and fight and fight. And it was the DEA, FBI, and the Utah, or no, it was Nevada PD that stopped him.
I think so.
And the problem is he had $100,000. He was going to help his daughter buy a house. And he can't get all that back because he's fighting with attorney fees. So
Seriously?
you need organizations like this. That
And
will
we
take it
need
on.
we need to.
Some people never. got it
Holly
back.
doesn't like this, but I'm a firm believer that if you're anywhere along the train of law enforcement, that's that's the officer on the ground to the judge, and you breach that contract, you get double the punishment we would give to a civilian, because we are giving you special privileges and you're volunteering for these privileges.
I don't know that I disagree with that.
Okay.
I just want to make sure who gets a fair trial, because the justice system we've proven now isn't fair. And
everybody needs to get a fair trial. This is
Yeah.
actually that's a great point, and I think that's popping up as an issue more and more. One of the things that I'll tell you, like a reform that we should do here, is I think we should allow people to, if you are in a political type of a prosecution where you're being, like there's some sort of political, so like you're being prosecuted and you think it's because you're a Republican in Salt Lake County, for example.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That probably wouldn't happen here. You should be able to expand the jury pool beyond Salt Lake County and be able
So
to
it's
go
a jury of your peers.
Yeah,
Trump should be able to expand the jury trial all across the United States, because no one in the United States doesn't have an
Dude,
opinion on Donald Trump.
If
Yeah.
he wants someone that doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump, he'd have to go to that island
I'm saying
that's out in the middle
so
of
that
nowhere.
you can get the positives and the negative
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But this is
You
what
can't do it in
irritates me.
DC.
Look at the officer
I
with
wonder
George
how
Floyd.
this New York
That
trial is
officer
going to
did
be
not get a
wild.
fair trial.
No.
And that was a political conviction.
Yeah.
And not only that, he was sent to the wolves. They're
Mhm.
not showing the beginning of that traffic stop.
He got
or
stabbed
that
a month
call.
ago too.
Right. The day
Yeah.
they were going to go over his appeal for the autopsy.
I know. I hate to say shocker when I think that stuff shady went down, but shocker.
But this is what I'm saying. Yes, police, law enforcement, of course, law enforcement, teachers,
Yep.
priests, if they're put in a position of trust and they violate that trust, I have no problem doubling their penalty.
Yep.
What I have a problem with now, though, is we do not have a fair justice system.
Nope.
And
But you could
police
argue we never really
is
have.
political. Now more than ever, though.
Our justice system has always been justice for who has the most money. It's always been that
Yeah,
way.
but now
And
it's not about money.
we've got to figure out how to make it. And this might be, we got a lawyer here. How could we make it so that both parties come in there with this same war chest?
Well, that's going to be difficult, right? Because even if you
It's
have lawyers,
impossible.
they'll have different capabilities. But I think we need to focus on due process and making sure that everyone is getting a
Due
fair
process
shot.
was the way that we tried to defeat that. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said, the founders were brilliant. And I think their brilliance came from a group of, 31 guys came together and argued and opposed each other, and then separated into different rooms and came back and argued. And I think that's where their real brilliance lied, because Thomas Jefferson didn't know everything, but he knew some things.
Yeah, but he was in France for a lot of
And
that
then you had
beginning.
Hamilton knew some things, and Adams knew some things, and and they all got together and argued and argued and back. It's a brilliant thing that happened.
But our country has gone to plea bargaining. And I think a lot of young people are convicted of crimes because they're scared to go to trial.
Yeah.
And plea bargaining has been, and I know, and then I see prosecutions are different. You see it now, like almost day and night. A black minority or any minority is getting more time than the white kid. And it's so blatant. And you're right, money has a lot
I
to
don't
do
like
with it.
when that's argued, because they always bring up two different states, even like, oh, this kid
But
in
justice should be
Florida did
blind
this thing, and
everywhere.
this kid in LA did this thing. But those are two different laws in two different states.
No, I'm talking about right down to match. A murder versus a murder, a gang crime versus a gang crime. If it is two different states, laws should be blind. The law should be blind. Courts should be blind. And that's how it was always said, that it should be about proving this person did it.
Yeah,
But even if they go to trial, or if they don't go to trial and they both plea, one gets 10 more years than the other.
sometimes that
And
happens.
it's blatant now. We need to stop that.
But whenever I see those arguments brought up, they're always arguing, oh, this lady in Philadelphia, and I'm going to bring up a lady case that I heard was the last one I heard, versus this lady in
Was she a
Texas.
lady or a trans lady?
Well, trans ladies aren't going to get convicted now. I mean, let's be serious. But no, it was two ladies, and I think they were both up on shoplifting. and they bring it up. It's argued from the left because the white lady in the North got less time than the black lady in Texas. And they were saying but when you look into it further, the black lady in Texas, this was like her 4th time getting caught doing it, where the white lady, and so they argue, and then they also argue the time you receive will be different from state to state. Every state has its own statutes that it follows. And speaking of,
I think, sorry, just
go on. You're the lawyer, because I'm just talking out of my rear
I think
end.
for due process, though, we also want to look at elected bodies as well.
Mhm.
And what I mean is, we saw a whole slew of elected bodies come out and condemn Natalie Klein for the post. And I'm fine, I don't want to I'm not talking about the post, whether it's wrong, right, whatever. But what I thought was kind of problematic is you had elected bodies passing resolutions censoring her without giving her an opportunity to speak to it, without talking to her, and making allegations. For example, I think the state legislature said that she was engaged in bullying. Well, bullying would have a specific definition. It would have elements that you would want someone to meet, and you should prove before you allege that. And I just think it just shows some unlimited power, because you get censored like that.
It's relative bullying.
Yeah, well, no, it could destroy your life. Think about it.
Yeah.
Like, you could become unemployable. It could destroy your marriage.
She
your
lost
relationship.
her bid for the seat, and
So you mean to tell me
one other person, the governor, can do it?
an elected
and the same
official
stuff
called
doesn't
her a
happen.
bully? I wonder if I know anyone else who is that.
Not just one, but they rallied all of them together.
You are the most calm, measured person I probably have ever met.
Oh.
And
Thanks.
they called you a bully.
Right? Yeah, well, no, that Amy Winder Newton thinks I'm a bully, but like I said, I don't know why.
But this is what gets to me with the Natalie Klein thing, is that she did go on and she did admit fault, and she did fall on the sword. And, I have so much respect for that. I can't even tell you, because I would rather that than either sweep it under the rug and say nothing, because censures don't work.
I'm sure she learned a huge lesson.
We did this at the SEC when they wanted to censure her there. And I was like, first of all, they don't work. Second of all, where's she to defend herself? This is what I was telling everyone around me.
They wanted to censor Natalie at the SEC?
Yeah.
Oh.
On that special meeting, they brought that up. That they want to do a censure based on her post and all this stuff. And
interesting. I
was like, don't vote for that. I think I even said to you, I think I came up and said, this isn't what you think it is. I wouldn't vote for this. It was a censure, I believe.
Okay, I don't remember there being a censure, but like I said, I think I don't like elected bodies, so that would include the SEC.
Right.
Like, if we're going to do this, we have to give the other person due process. I mean, in the last SEC meeting, I was trying to introduce that motion to investigate Todd Weiler, because he helped a woman. He gave a woman $251 so that she could go and get her breasts removed. He contributed to that because she had gender dysphoria. And there are some other things. But the point of that was to set up a committee that would investigate it, allow him to come forward, give whatever response it is.
Was she a family member or anything?
No.
Wow. How does that? You know that for a fact?
Yeah. No, I know that for a fact.
Wow.
It's he contributed to her GoFundMe page. I got... Someone sent it to me as a tip, and then I texted him and asked him, "Hey, did you give money to this woman?" He said yes. He said, and I was like, "How much?" And he said, "Oh, I think it was like $50." Well, I went to GoFundMe and I was able to find the donation. It was $251.
What if he just read the headline, "I need help, I'm a poor thing"? But I mean, I can't see myself donating to some random persons. And I'm sorry if you're transgender, if you support them. I feel bad for them. I don't want to see them mutilated. I don't want to see them lose a body part. And I'm sorry if they feel like their breasts aren't theirs. I don't want to see them when they're 30 look down and have 2 scars.
Back to the other issue. I think that censures they're just lazy to me. I don't like that you get groupthink, and I get it. I get that she did something that was offensive, and we already said you never post a picture of somebody else's child. I don't care what it is, but she even admitted that she would never have done that again.
Yeah.
And there was so many things that were part of that. And she fell on the sword. And now they want to stab her to death in front of everybody and make a big scene out of it. And yet they'll forgive the things that the governor did or said about the kid at the volleyball game and being, he was proven wrong. But yet rather than him come out and go, look, I was wrong, I should never have said anything. Nope, it just got ignored, but no one was going to censure him and to call him out. And it's the same when they wanted to censure Mitt Romney. Yes, you can do that. And we as a party can say, hey, we don't agree with what you're doing. But is Mitt Romney going to get called in and actually testify? Because I think he deserves that. If someone's going to censure you and call you out, you should be able to defend yourself. Otherwise, it's just a majority of people who decide to hate you. It's burning a witch at the stake, and you have no way to defend yourself.
Yeah. So when I proposed a censure of Amy Winder Newton, and I learned later on that the censure, the way I did it, was it would have been ruled out of order, but it's because everything in it was not public. So what they said would have to happen is you'd set up the committee. This is why with the Todd Wiley, we're trying to test it and do it the right way.
Yeah.
Set up the committee, which then the person can come and they can say, I disagree with this. I didn't mean that. Whatever.
And there's an investigation through the committee, and the person actually gets to defend themselves.
Yeah, which I am totally good with. I agree with you 100%. You should always have due process. One of the on the Natalie Klein thing, there was a council member. He's running for the at-large county council seat, and I think he's a council member in South Salt Lake or Mill Creek. No, not Mill Creek. Midvale. That's where it is. He's a Democrat. His name's Dustin Gettle. And I said something like, "What can you guys censure? Did you talk to her? No, we don't need to. Can you censure? So what's the limiting factor?
Yeah.
Can you just censure any of your citizens because you just think, oh, hey, mom, how dare you show up at a school board meeting and not want your child to wear a mask? We're going to censor you, right? There's no limiting principle to this. And I really think as a state, we need to be very worried about this, because that showed you how there are people that can drive the narrative and get people riled up and just keep it going. If you're just a regular person, first of all, if you're in politics at all, you guys both probably know this, you're bound to make a mistake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that if the response is going to be, well, if you make a mistake, we're just going to destroy your life, no one's going to want to get involved.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I mean, she lost at her convention pretty handedly.
Yeah.
And I think that legislation, all of that, it goes a long way with the regular Republicans. If my party is saying that this woman is terrible and unfit I always ask when I see people get arrows thrown at them, I always got to know, what did you do to get these people to hate you? And more times than not, they did something right.
I go to the Tribune and I read what Brian wrote. He tells me everything I need to know, as he did with Natalie Klein. I mean, he was
One of them did a very fair interview with her, though. Was it Channel 2?
I'm sure it was Brian.
2. It was Brian Malahy. I thought she did a great interview with her.
Yeah.
I thought that was
I thought Brian did, though. Brian Schott. I think he was great. He was fair and
liar.
Balanced, and he gave both sides to the story.
If Head Trauma had a podcast, it would look like you.
That would be the first time. That must be a first for Brian.
The problem with Brian is
lying.
I don't know why the Tribune keeps him on in that position. I really don't.
He stirs people up.
He's unobjective, like 100% unobjective. And he goes out and argues with Republicans on any move that they make that's heartfelt. And it's crazy. He can't just go out and say, hey, this is what they're doing. And I don't know why they keep him, because word around the state outside of Salt Lake, no one reads that. It's hated.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I actually have a subscription to it.
Well,
but I have the veteran discount, so it's only $30 a year.
Ooh, not bad.
Tell us about your service.
We covered that before.
I'm a JAG officer, and I've been in for 12 years, a little more than 12 years.
Are you with the Navy?
No, I'm with the Utah National Guard.
Okay, I thought JAG was
If you want to be
Navy.
offended, it's okay.
I'm not offended.
With the Navy.
I thought JAG was Navy.
If you watch TV, JAG is Judge Advocate General.
So
Every
it's for
branch-
every branch.
Every
Yeah.
branch has military lawyers. He goes in, and
I got it. You don't
Yeah.
have to mansplain it to me.
when they
Go
do
on.
something,
So it's
Yeah, and
every
it's
branch, and so you're in the Utah National
so
Guard.
I've deployed a couple times. 2013 to 14, I deployed to Afghanistan. And then in 2018 to 19, I deployed with a Special Operations Joint Task Force, and it was an anti-ISIS mission. So I was
Wow.
in Kuwait, Iraq, and Syria. So
I bet that was a fast moving one.
yeah, it was
You're
like
just moving from place to place all the time.
and it was it was long hours,
Wow. I
but it was
bet.
exciting stuff because the Special Operations Forces are, they are the best of the best, and they're creative thinkers, and they really challenge you because as a lawyer, you're trying to make sure what they ask you for.
Understatement of the year,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
but no, because
They did what?
you have these left and right limits that the Congress has given you, and you're trying to make sure that what they want to do falls within that. And you like they'll come up with amazing ideas. Like really, these are the smartest soldiers, and then you as a lawyer have to get them what they want and get it through commanders to convince them that yes, what you're going to do is legal, even though it might not sound like that on the surface. And here's
Right.
why.
You can really dig in and find your angle.
Yeah, and I like I said, I'd been a litigator before, so this was just the same type of. I took it as the same. That's the skill set: persuasion through writing, and I was able to get a lot of stuff approved for them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is good.
Fun. It's fun stuff.
You
Yeah.
are just there's so many dimensions to you with your public service, with your career, with your just your regular life. It's so cool to meet people who are they walk the walk. Like you're living the example you want all of us to follow.
100%. And you keep putting yourself forward
Yeah.
to represent your community.
Yeah.
You keep saying, I'm going to put myself
What
forward.
keeps you going?
I mean, it is that, no matter, like, I think election results are one, like some people are really driven by that, but I'm really about like making changes and improving where we are. And I think over the past 4 years, I've shown that I've been able to do that. And it's not by just because some people, they thought I was very negative, but it was actually by working with people from both sides. I actually think the Democrat Republican thing, a lot of times this gets tiresome.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a lot of stuff from Democrats I do not like, but they have good ideas too. And when you come up with a policy that that they'll support, it's always worth going and talking to them about it. And we did it this session with HB 432. That's the bill that increased the incentives for clergy to voluntarily report when they learn about child abuse from a perpetrator. And Representative Lubay actually I had to meet with multiple representatives. Lubay, he took it. We met with Representative Romero, a Democrat.
Did you have any pushback on that? Because that one also feels like that would be everybody jump on board.
I think a lot of legislators were nervous about it because it's kind of a hot topic. Once it got before a committee, though, it was like love all around. I mean, Representative King, running for governor, Democrat, he actually had his own bill and he totally supported this bill. It was like, this is great. He's like, I'm totally supportive. I'm glad we're doing this. I mean, it was really nice to see it. And it made me realize like we could probably take this further because what I'd like to do is make it mandatory, but we showed people this can get done. So that's what makes it is like that stuff. You leave that, you feel like happy and emotional. And
that's the perfect avenue to work on. The bigger areas is something like that. Okay.
Take the wins.
We all agree that we want clergy to be an avenue to support if there's children being harmed.
Yep.
So all the county, all the state can come together on that. Now, maybe Salt Lake County, doesn't agree with Tooele County on something. So let that be in the county's purviews.
Yeah.
But on a state level, we can get together and say children are not going to be harmed by clergy or with the knowledge of clergy.
But you're protecting religious freedom where it's an option and you're not forcing them to report.
Honestly,
I like to force them to report.
If kids are getting hurt,
I think we can get there. But, everything is done incrementally, policy-making wise. And I just think, for me, at least, since like everybody knows I'm gay, I don't have kids. I just think there's that comedian, John
Mulaney?
No, the one on HBO. Well,
What's his
I can't
shtick usually?
John. I can't remember his name. He did a video recently. He also doesn't have kids, and he talked about this. Like, I think we're all obligated to do everything we can to protect children, regardless of whether. Yeah, and so
protect innocence.
Yeah, and I feel exactly, and that's part of like fighting the trans agenda is exactly that, because I think a lot of that has to do with sexualizing your children at a young age, which I just think is wrong.
It is.
And letting them be as innocent as we got to be when we were growing up. And you know, like I have 2 nephews. They live in San Diego, and I just pray that like a lot of the work I do here pays it forward so that they're not being subjected to a lot of the stuff that happens in California that does not happen in Utah.
Yeah, and not
You're
to
making
mention
your footprint.
maybe you can
That's amazing.
bleed a little bit of logic over to California, and it can say, let's protect the kids for a
San
minute.
Diego is more conservative though,
Yeah.
and I hope it keeps going because they seem to still have their logic about them.
They still have a lot of it. I was like, the last time when I went back, my sister, they had a Diwali party and a bunch of their friends were over.
Oh, what?
Diwali. Is
that the area or?
No, it's a Hindu holiday.
Oh, Diwali. Okay.
Yeah, so they had their, maybe I said it different, but they had their
Say it like your dad would say it.
Diwali.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you got to tell me what it all is because
it's a big party, but they had a bunch of their friends there, and a bunch of their friends came up to me and were like, "We heard about what you're doing there. You're totally supportive. We need that to come down here because this stuff, like, what do you recommend we do with our kids?"
I love it. And that means your sister is talking about you and feels open to tell and share. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm like, well, I don't have kids, so but I'll just
these nephews of mine matter. They might as well be my children because they're my future. And these kids deserve to have the same shot we did. And they deserve to have their innocence. That's what makes me the most ill, is that we're just snatching it. We're snatching it from them in the name of, like, I don't know, just apathy, empathy. Is that it?
I think, they weaponize that, right? So like the pornographic books is a great example.
Oh,
the justification as well. If we're going to be inclusive to the LGBTQ community, we need to have porno books. And when I spoke on that one, I said, first of all, we didn't have porno books in school when I was a kid. And
I mean, they were there, but the teachers and the librarians didn't know that we had brought them.
Exactly.
There was a black market around, like, usually in the lunchroom in that one dark corner. There's a black market where boys did what boys did, but no one else knew about it.
Your voice booms on topics like this, though. I wish that more gay and, LGBT, I wish more of them would speak out in honor of children.
It's coming out
because your voice is so much louder than mine or his would be.
It's starting to happen because the one good thing about not the one good thing, a great thing about legalizing gay marriage and welcoming everyone into the community as a whole is now they're coming into the community without a bias, and they're looking around, seeing the community. Where am I going to fit and where can I make a difference? And I think it's a great thing. I know a lot of Republicans disagree with it, but it should have happened forever ago. You know, I mean, with the what was it? The legalized Obama's gay marriage act. I think it's great because that just said, now you're do everything everyone else does. Well, and now he comes in. He doesn't. I shouldn't talk about you like you're not here. You don't have to. You don't have to sit and wonder or argue for your place in the community. It's there. Yeah. So now you come into the community and you look around and say, where can I apply my talents and fill a gap that needs to be filled?
I think the government should get out of all marriage. That's my opinion.
There you go.
I don't care if gays get married. I
as an ordained minister, I 100% agree.
Give up half their crap, just like the rest of us, and it doesn't go great. But there's this thing about Obama, like Hillary, they all were against gay marriage when they first.
Well, it was Biden that led him into that one,
and it was Trump was the first one to come out openly about, yes, gay marriage is fine, it's fine, equality, yes. I'll hire a gay person as fast as I'll hire. Sometimes I'll hire them faster because they're far more committed and they got a lot more time for business. I mean, it's nice to see the evolution of there is progressivism that makes sense, but then there's a culture that has to correct itself, because again, you're going to have a whole new idea jump on your wagon, and it's like, wait a minute, we're not asking for kids to be gay at 7 years old.
Right.
We want them to have a safe space, sure, where they can be themselves, but we shouldn't even be talking about sex until they're of age. And that's, we've seen high schools have gay clubs and there's acceptance, and that should be how it is. Every kid should have that acceptance. But it's turned into younger and younger and younger, and people have just kept their mouth shut because they don't want to offend anyone. And it's like you sacrifice your children.
Do you think that could be just because it's such a hot topic, why the hard left pushes hard into it? Because I would hate to think that the teachers that are doing all this are grooming or pedophiles. I don't think they are. I just wonder if they've got an ideology and this is a point of contention, so they push harder into it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think all teachers are, trying to groom kids. I think there are some that do.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's some that are part of that, but most teachers, I think,
They want to be allies.
Yeah, exactly. They want to protect the kids. I will say, when I hear about schools today, it sounds like it sounds like a horrible place. It's like they talk about racism is worse today than it was when I was in high school, which it wasn't even a big deal back then. Like being gay, they make it sound like it's a horrible thing. And I'm just like, I can't imagine that it's worse than it was, 20, 30 years ago.
Now they're struggling because they're furries and they're not getting accepted as furries. And it sounds like a horrible place.
I wouldn't think
And I'm worried about my kid. How do they prove if they're not gay? If they're accused of being something they're not. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, wait. Or they're considered a bully because they're doing something that it's a relative term. What bullies you isn't bullying me, or how you perceive a bully isn't how I perceive a bully. And it's almost like we're trying to overcorrect. And it's just like, it's gotten out of control. Now it's like, you just got to sit back and go, okay, breathe. Everybody breathe. Let them be kids.
I don't know. It's like they've forgotten about the primary goal of school is to teach of course, the 3 R's, the reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah, now they teach I think now kids don't know that stuff, but they can tell you all 30 pride flags and
the 98 genders.
They focused in on trying to make you emotionally develop. Maybe they're just trying to socialize people more than teaching them to be.
They're creating more antisocial people. Because
I don't know.
They have to fit themselves in a box. They're labeled, and it's.
But then again, to them, we're the antisocial ones.
Well, but they also talk a lot about protection, right? It almost seems too much like coddling, because I do feel like part of this is as you're growing up, you're kind of learning how to interact with people.
Right.
You're going to say rude stuff to people.
You need to have a bully. It's going to make you tough.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you a them and a they through half this show. Not meaning to.
You're going to have to work for someone that you can't stand. And I tell my kids this all the time. You better learn to work with people, because you've got to always, always be good about who you're working with, because that, don't ever stab anyone in the back, because it may be attached to an ass you have to kiss someday. And I always tell them, because if you have a teacher that you think he's pushing you too hard, or he's always on you about this and that, and he's totally ridiculous. I'm like, welcome to the real world. You're going to have a boss like that someday. Learn to work with them, or get through it and find something better. Now you only have school till this time and it's up, and then you get new teachers next year. But if you don't learn to work with these teachers, you're going to be a victim of your high school, a victim of your puberty, or a victim. Stop being a victim. Be a victor. Learn to work with people, because that's what life is.
Yeah.
Working with people that will annoy you. And some are going to say shit to you that is going to hurt your feelings. You just brush it off and move on.
Yeah.
Water off a duck's back. That's what they say.
Have to.
Yep.
And you've got to, but
that's why you need Indian immigrant parents. You very quickly learn to be like, oh, you think my hair looks terrible?
A little bit of Tiger Mom
Wipe that
action.
face off. I want to see a smile. Your attitude sucks.
Yes, that's what I was trying to do with my hair.
Yeah. All right. I have one last story to talk about. Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction has been overturned by the Court of Appeals in New York.
Oh my gosh.
So first we got Dr. Huxtable got out, right? He got out because in Philadelphia, he made a deal with the previous DA to give some testimony, and that testimony would not be used in court. That DA leaves, a new DA comes in, breaks that deal, uses it in court. He gets thrown out. Harvey Weinstein's, now his got overturned just last Thursday because now Harvey Weinstein, I completely think that he's guilty. But this boils down to procedures in court. I think you need to.
I think the whole entertainment industry is guilty.
Oh yeah,
they knew this guy was doing
they
this,
sat and watched
nobody
it.
did. In fact, many of these women, they went there knowing what to
Was
expect.
it just Harvey got so old he was no longer a tool to be used to get your movie made? So then they turned. But anyways, what happened is Harvey, the judge allowed testimony in that was shown to be irrelevant, and he also allowed testimony in that was it talks about it in here.
Hearsay?
Not hearsay, but wasn't
I thought there was like too many
a
testimonies.
fair thing, and testimony that didn't apply. Anyways, the judge allowed a lot of stuff in. What's the judge's name? But anyways, so
Get down to the actual story.
Well, this is it right here.
We're talking about him in court, but I'm curious, like he's in a wheelchair and all that. He's 73 years old.
Okay.
I'm curious what they're deciding.
The trial court erroneously admitted testimony of uncharged, alleged prior sexual acts against persons other than the complainants of the underlying crimes because testimony served
and the statute of limitation was probably up on it. And this was making me mad about this whole Trump thing. In order to bring this Trump thing to trial, they had to forgive the statute, which was already over with the potential paying the stripper. How do courts get to forgive statutes?
I'm 100% in agreement that this needed to happen. This trial needed to happen because he was abusing. If any young 16 to 18-year-old starlet had dreams of being on the silver screen,
it's a disgusting place.
I think more
Hollywood.
people should have been brought in.
It's a totally disgusting.
It is. More people should have been brought in, like the handlers that brought those young ladies to him.
This takes a lot.
They should have served time as well
to make something like this happen. There's a lot of people involved.
Did you see the latest one that's been going on about the kids?
Yeah.
What's called
Disney one?
Yeah, with all the it's like the girls and the disgusting things that they did.
Producer and Corey. Remember the two Corys back
Corey
in the
Haim
day?
and Corey
Feldman? No.
Friedman. Anyways,
the two Corys from
Did one of them
back in the day?
Yes, the one committed suicide.
But
the other one is
he had
now.
always said his whole life he was abused as a kid, and the other Corey finally came out and did a documentary about it. And I watched that documentary, and I only found it on YouTube, and I was watching it on my phone. Feldman.
Yeah, Corey Feldman.
Okay.
I couldn't breathe. Part of me was like, oh my gosh. And he's not the only one. And he gives a detailed description. These handlers groom them and get them away from their parents and get them into tutors, and all this stuff is happening. And he's going to these parties that are described by the same description of what they're charging Puffy with right now with P. Diddy.
Oh, I'm sure they are the same.
All of that is Hollywood disgusting. So it takes so many people to have this many victims. It takes a lot of handlers.
Yes, it's and it maybe
but Weinstein's the only one charged.
Yeah, it feels kind of like a cover up. Like he got too old to actually be the mover and shaker. So then they said, "All right, let's send him to court," and then they stacked the court, which is why I think, like you said earlier, courts need to be paragons of we go by the books.
Yeah.
Because then things like this happen because the court system with Dr. Huxtable, what the heck's his name?
Bill Cosby.
With Bill Cosby, the same thing. Had they gone by the books, you would have had, because I think the only thing worse than not having a trial is having a trial that's thrown out, because that puts negative shade on your judicial system.
Yeah, but it also, when you have a trial like O.J. Simpson's trial, where all the light and all the attention's on, like Colby's trial.
That was the
like
jurors.
this trial,
The jurors went
you
against
taint
that.
the jury pool immediately, and all of a sudden it's not about justice anymore. It's about fame.
The
And it's
jurors,
about social justice.
O.J. Simpson, the jurors, they even came out and talked about it, I think within a year. Like, we let him go. It was revenge.
But that's what this is. This is, you had to prosecute him and you had to put him in jail, because all this Me Too movement, it was
Yes.
all about social justice.
But see, this is saying that they allowed evidence in that they should not have allowed
Yes.
in,
Yeah.
just to show that he was likely to do this.
Yeah, because
Yes,
he
it was
wasn't
an
charged.
appeals court.
Yeah.
An appeals court threw it out. Now,
Yeah.
he still faces 16 years in California, which they're expecting. If this stands, he's going to go to California
That's a life
and
sentence.
die in jail. But then you got that curly-haired guy that just went in. What was his name off of that 70s show? He just went in for this stuff. Are we going to see this tracked down too? The problem with these
You have to have a crime
these
before.
cultural fires, when they jump to judiciary on them, is they make mistakes.
That officer, the George Floyd case, absolutely. The day that the autopsy comes out and they say George Floyd died of an overdose of fentanyl, and he was in the last hours of his life because of this overdose, that officer was knifed almost to death. No protection, nothing. And that's one of those that there's so much light shine on it. You had to sacrifice him.
I'm wondering if
makes me
that one's
sick.
going to be brought in for an
America.
appeal soon.
We don't have the best justice system, but ours is the best in the world,
Yeah.
I believe.
Every system's the best in the world.
But it's still
just
It
not
could be
as
made
good as it
better.
should be.
social justice has no place. It should be blind, and it almost can't be.
It can't anymore. I think we've actually, like when we were younger, I think we were at a point where racism was like not a real factor.
Seriously.
And then they've kind of made people more race conscious over time. I've seen it in my own family where family members would never think about race.
Yeah,
Now think about it. Oh,
Do you think that reigned in under Obama
I know it
yeah.
did
winning?
under Obama.
And I'm wondering why.
Because Obama played on it.
He did, but
Everything was victim.
it
You were a
even
victim.
started coming in before Obama played on it. It seemed like,
When?
do you think people felt like it wasn't real that he won? Or
No,
what do you think it was?
I think it's been a concerted effort by, I don't know who, but people in power.
Do you think Al
to-
Sharpton thought, "Oh, how am I going to make my money now?"
He always
No,
thinks
I think it's more like to divide us, right?
Yep.
And because when you start getting rid of, like, race is just like it's just surface
That's our
level, it doesn't
simplest
matter.
division.
Yeah. Once you start getting rid of that and people start all talking, they just realize that no matter our race, most of us agree on 80% of the issues anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's just work together and fix this
But it
stuff.
was under Obama that
Yeah.
he made it about race, and with the Trayvon Martin, and
I think
With
he
that
leaned
case,
in
and
to
then with
making it.
the hands up, don't shoot. He went after police officers, and he made everything about race. And he said police acted stupid, and that's the thing is BLM was born under Obama, and so was
True.
Antifa.
That was
And
that
all of it. It
that
was
kid in
Fulton
Missouri.
County is where it started, BLM. And they were just rioting in the name of hands up, don't shoot, even though it was Black witnesses who came anonymously because they didn't want the jury to see their faces or know their names, but said, no, we watched this guy go after this officer's gun and he was defending his life. This
Yeah.
officer was.
Mm,
That's the only reason that cop didn't go to prison, is because people were honest.
yeah.
And yet they were ready to send him.
It was his friend he was walking down the street with that started that hands up, don't shoot thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a movement. Overnight, it became a social
did
justice
become a
warrior
movement.
stuff.
And it was a whole bunch of
It was all
outsiders
for-
that came in and burned that place down.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
funded by like the George Soros and those groups. But here's the thing: it didn't have to be an actual situation. It was the one thing that gave government power over us is
Yes.
keep us at war with each other, and the government has to come in. If it was about race, I mean, these cities that are mostly Black would be some of the safest cities in the country because they would do everything to make sure they were protected by law enforcement. The people could own guns and protect themselves.
Well, the government does run in there and say, rely on us, and that
right. And it
hurts them
cripples
bad.
the people. And yet it would be the opposite. It would be the opposite if it really was about fixing the racial injustice. But I think Obama was key in dividing us. And yet he was supposed to be the great uniter.
Right. And it's worse today because we have the DEI programs that divide people, and they're actually indoctrinating children with that, right? That race matters.
DI, SEL, all of that.
I mean,
But now race hasn't worked as much. Now it's sexuality. And now it's about your gender. And they're turning it so that everyone's a victim of something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait a minute, we agree on most things.
And nobody cares. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I was born and brought up here. I lived in majority white neighborhoods my entire life, and nobody's ever cared. I had white scoutmasters. They never brought up my race. They didn't care. And white neighbors, they didn't care. I just think this is...
Yeah, the neighborhood kids in the 90s, they cared what kind of bicycle you had.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That was...
And if you could play a football game.
In the 80s, well, in the 80s, that was how you were judged by your peers if you had a cool bicycle.
Yeah.
It was wild back then
Or a
because
skateboard.
Stranger Things broke into that because our bicycles were everything. Skateboards didn't really even show up then.
Tony Hawk is the 80s.
Sure,
man.
but it was our bicycles. I remember as a kid, we all just, who had the coolest bicycle, we're going to go to his house and get him first. It's weird. I look back on it. I'm like, wow, we were very so superficial about the bicycles.
Yeah, now they're talking to kids about, victims and victors and like
and none of them know how to ride bicycles.
Yeah, and they probably don't know how to read and write.
It's sad.
That's
really
our
sad.
problem. We don't have enough bicycles in the country.
Well, a lot of them, you know what? The family's been destroyed too. A lot of kids don't have dads or don't have just two parents. Just two parents to give them the time that jobs have taken from them. Because, in our generation, both our parents worked, and that's why we were home latchkey kids. It was lucky if you had a parent at home when you got home from school. That was considered really huge. Like, wow, her mom's home from.
That was my mom. My mom had a home daycare.
Yeah.
So she was home. She was always there,
And
she
that's
would drive us
amazing.
places. It was really, it really makes a difference, I think. And it's helpful. But the trans agenda is exactly at destroying families.
Yeah.
And I don't think people ever did they fully understand it. When your child comes out as having gender dysphoria, and then you push it into being trans, a lot of times those families leave the church. And then it also starts to destroy the family unit as well, because it's like the husband and wife might disagree on it, like all this type of stuff.
What's the goal? Why do they want to destroy the family?
I think that is
Communist
the thing.
Manifesto.
Yeah, that's the thing that stops people.
That's
from
the last
depending.
hurdle to the Great March.
Because they put government in charge of
It'll be in charge
family.
of everything. Yeah.
That's 1984. No one is special. No one is everything. We're all. And the thing is, it drives such a wedge between the parent-child. And then later on, if there was any mistake and the child changes their mind and they look at their parent, it's like me giving my child a tattoo on his forehead when he's 12 because he wanted it.
Yeah.
When he's 20, he's going to look at me and go, are you freaking crazy? I trusted you to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. And now I have a tattoo on my forehead because I want it. That's going to drive a long-term wedge, if not totally destroy any relationship. And grandchildren won't have grandparents, and if they can have children at all. Yeah. And it's just like it's such an ugly thing. And kids should just be able to be kids. And if they think they're a girl when they're a teenager, they deserve to get therapy from someone who's neutral, who's there to help you deal with who you are.
Well, I would say it would hopefully help you become comfortable in your birth sex, because typically that's this people always have, teenagers always have problems.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
That's
their
what-
brain is
yeah.
telling them, hey, everybody's looking at you. You're
Yeah.
awkward. You're
Yeah.
weird.
You know, the
It's-
hormones raging,
it's
you know,
bad.
you're like growing, you don't know what's going on.
Pimples
It's-
show up everywhere
it's
all
totally
day
fine.
long, all the time.
You're popular one day and then everyone hates you the next. And it's
or
it's
you
so
think
fickle.
they do, or yeah.
Yeah, everything's a bigger deal than it is, because I think once you become an adult, you realize honestly nobody cares about you.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah,
they've got
you're
their
not-
own problems. Like,
What do you think the Marxists think that this that civilization will look like if they get their way? I mean, everyone sees what communist Russia and let's face it, communist China prior to their liberalizing and starting in the late 70s. What do they think it'll look like? I mean, remember in China, up until the late 90s, you couldn't own a car.
mhm.
You
Well,
couldn't.
it's-
They made them over there.
You're a
Buicks
product
were
of
made
the
over there.
state, and
But what do they think it'll look like? Do they think it'll be this utopia? Like you hear people write, I will be a poet in the morning and a farmer in the afternoon
no
and
way.
a fisherman at night. And no, Dumas, you'll be a pickaxe operator in the mine. But I'm really good at poetry. Mine.
you're going to dream in poets
Yeah.
tree
Yeah,
if
definitely.
you get to sleep, and you'll be starving, and you are the product of the government. You work for the government.
What do they think?
It's powerful people driving this.
Yeah.
And I think because in those types of systems, there's always still people that are powerful and wealthy.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just not the everyday
Absolute
person
power
that can get
corrupts
up there.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, the economic divide in the USSR was much greater than it is here.
Yeah.
Much greater.
As a middle class person in the US, if you work hard and save your money, you can actually save a good amount of money.
You
over
can
your
live
lifetime,
a comfortable
right?
life. In the USSR, you
Yeah, but you can't
were
retire to
you
one
were,
these days.
uh,
Like you
upper
can save
party-
all day and you'll still run out of money.
you were upper
yeah.
party
Yeah.
politics, or you were dirt poor.
Yep.
They didn't have they didn't even allow petty bourgeoisie.
Yeah, the American middle class, I think, is that bulwark against all of
But
this.
they're
right?
being hollowed out.
We are. No, I agree with you 100%.
It's all by
I mean,
design.
yeah.
But people have to stand up and they have to be done.
Yeah, but think about it. What do people want today? Right? We keep asking for the government to spend more. They're printing money, which is causing inflation,
Yep.
and that hurts your wealth. It hurts the normal person can't keep up with that.
No.
And then that drives increasing property taxes, making it harder to stay in your home. That drives, we're
And
actually
you have
hollowing
to-
out our
Both
wealth.
sides are
You have to
arguing. We want
spend
better
your-
education, but then we don't want to pay property tax, which funds education.
Well, you have to spend your money now, because
Yeah.
tomorrow it's not worth the same.
Yep.
Like you can't save up reliably. Like I'm going to save up for 3 years and I'm buying that brand new car in cash.
Right.
We've inflated the bottom out of the money you have and inflated the price up on the new
It's
car.
only going up too.
Yeah.
And wages aren't. And so all this is such a mess. I think we eliminate the Fed and then we start over.
Mm.
I will say, like, I need to read more about that, because it does sound interesting, because the Fed is what's undermining the currency right now, right? So
And the
it
interest
is.
rates, and they're
Yeah.
not elected.
yeah,
They're not even part of the federal government.
It makes
and
you
they
wonder-
dictate our whole lives.
yeah.
Without the Fed, would we even have the government that we have now?
Wouldn't even have debt.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because like
Well, we'd have debt because you had debt before the Fed. Debt's always
Yeah,
been
but we
there.
weren't like in the trillions.
Well, no, trillions
and interest
didn't
rates are
exist.
set by the Fed.
Trillions
Right.
didn't. Millions didn't.
I mean, we go to
exist,
sleep
but-
tonight and our debt goes up $40 billion just in the nighttime.
yeah,
I mean, just one day.
But I think that's also because our politicians. Maybe it just all comes down to the 19th Amendment.
oh my god.
No, but our government has gotten to where it's not about what it's doing, it's about what it's perceived to be doing. So signing in a bill that prints a lot of money
Look over here.
to
Look over
pretend
here.
it takes care of that, and they just perceive it, and then they'll go out and tout it. It didn't fix anything. I mean, if you look at the
It's
black
theater, political
community,
theater.
the black community in the 40s they had the highest married birth rate
Yeah.
in the U.S.
The most intact families,
And
the strongest families.
And when they pushed out in the 60s, the Great Society under Johnson, they actually sent people into the community, into the Black community, to say, hey, get rid of your husband. State will take care of you. Get on welfare. What's that? That news guy, the Black news guy, Larry Elder talks about it. He remembers them coming to his house when he was a kid.
That is horrific.
You know,
And how, because
and how
offensive.
racist
Because
is that?
Totally racist.
the
That is
Black
disgusting.
community now is on life support because of that.
That's disgusting. Like, yeah, I can't even imagine someone thinking that's okay.
And they
Right.
did it.
Yeah.
They did it. And they went to the Black community because, one, that was the smallest community. You could actually get a hold of that community quick and easy. And I think it has everything to do with the size.
Well, they were strong.
Centrally
They were the
located.
strongest, and they were strong families, and they all,
Mhm.
strong Christians, and faith-based, family-based. And the whole thing to
Well,
Marxism is to divide the family, and
when
separate
you-
you from your faith, and government is your church. Global warming is your church. The
Yeah.
altar of global warming. I'm sorry, energy alone. If we just got out of that global warming crap and went back to producing our own energy in this country and then selling it to other countries, the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be mining in other countries and destroying their countries and hurting their people and making slaves of their youth so you can drive an electric car. I mean, it's just insanity. We're living in a clown world.
Well, no, so you're not happy with them covering acres and acres of land with solar
I
panels?
hate it. Out
Look,
here, they're
I'm
doing
one of-
it.
I'm one of those, I think solar panels look great. If you got a place to put
Yeah,
solar
they're putting
panels
it
and we can
here.
use them, put them in.
No.
If you, an electric car, I mean, I've driven an electric car. They're fast as heck.
Solar panels destroy the ground that you're
They're
putting
wildly
them
fast if you've got a place for the electric car, but I don't like the demonization rhetoric that they're bringing around to get this in place. And I think it's because we have the government kicked it off, I think,
Fear.
first power. They kicked it off for give us more tax money and more power. We'll take care of it. And that way, I mean, if I'm a governor, I'd much rather you not have
But
a
it
car.
didn't get
I don't have to
legs
pay the
till
roads as
later on.
often.
They've been talking global warming.
And I
It was
get to
global
control the
cooling in
bus
70s.
lines.
Yeah.
In the 80s, it was going to be an ice age. They started getting legs with Al Gore, and they're like, oh, wow.
Well, Al
we
Gore
can
did it because
really-
he started that
he's profits.
that cap and trade.
But that's what I'm saying.
I,
It started to be profitable, and now both sides are profiting off of
I
it.
litigated a case years ago, and it was a nuclear energy case. And part of what they had to do was predict out climate change. So I got to read about the model, but the model that they used, they couldn't actually validate it by showing, oh, okay, this model, when we put in this information, it shows how the climate changed.
Was it
over the
that
past
angel
100 years.
model that they had?
Over the past 100?
Can you make it match what happened over the past 100 years? Because you should be able to validate it like that in order to go forward and say this is what it's going to predict, right?
Oh my goodness.
They couldn't do that, but they still use the prediction as if it was going to come
if
true.
it's rule of law.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem
Mm.
because
And then when they're wrong, it doesn't matter. No one says anything. They just extend the,
They just change it.
catastrophe for 10 more years.
yeah, and the problem, but this is a problem. This is us. We're the problem,
Yep.
right? Because we should be saying, wait, you said this before it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Why should I believe you now?
Absolutely. And by the way, you're telling us that Paris Accord agreement was such a big deal that if America got rid of all our cars today, we get rid of everything. We still don't make a dent because India and China are the biggest producers of pollution. But all of us in America can recycle and go all electric and waste our water resources and all this other crap on your life.
It does kind of seem like the laws they put out will have a negative effect on the U.S. Will stop us, allow China to keep rolling forward, but to throw it out for all you the whatever, it hurts Africa because Africa is
Kills
the
them.
one that's on the very start, and they're targeting to where the Africans can't go down this road of industrializing through
but
fossil fuels.
the Indians aren't even there yet. I used to go there as a kid, and they didn't have 24-hour electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't think they do.
Or clean water.
In
a lot of
some
places-
places they do not,
Yeah, and so
but they have
just-
tuk-tuks, so makes it okay. Because
we
Gross.
call them auto rickshaws, but
auto rickshaws,
but
yeah,
they had well, I mean, we would go during the summer Indian heat during the summer is worse than here.
Oh, the humidity.
And power would go out midday. So just think about that. Like so you're going to go and tell people like that,
Mhm.
hey, you guys need to have clean, you need to clean. I mean, they want clean air, but you shouldn't be able to use the most reliable, cheapest forms of energy, even though you don't even have the basics yet.
Yep.
You've got hundreds of millions of people that don't have 24-hour power, which you need.
Absolutely.
They don't have clean water, to your point, like all this stuff.
And that's Africa.
Yeah,
You same
Africa,
to
same
them.
thing. Yeah.
And the Chinese people, that they're able to do all these mines and stuff because they're using slave labor.
Yeah.
In Africa, slave labor. They're allowing pennies a day for these kids to go into these mines and mine these electric car batteries stuff. It's okay as long as it's over there. But the lefties and their empathy, and I'm saying, guys, if we did this in our backyard, are you going to let them rip up Utah on these federal lands to do these mines? Because you're talking acres and
As
acres
I
and
look
acres and
over at
acres
Kennecott.
of mines.
Yeah, right.
Here, that was here before. But are you going to let them mine all of the Utah?
I
Where are you going to get people to pay to do it? Because it won't be worth your money.
It's almost like the people, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would think the people who are trying to mold the world global culture wants us all to imitate China's culture with the lack of free speech and lack of free
Which
movement
is communism.
and super strong government. But anyways,
We need to wrap it up.
it's 6:00. You guys have a good night. I want to thank Goud for coming on. It's
Thanks
been an
for having me.
awesome
Please
chat.
come on again. You're
Yes.
really fun.
I would like to have you on just to poke holes in. When we see something come up, I might reach out to you and say, "What's going on here?"
Hey, and pretty soon
Anytime.
I might have to miss a Friday. You should have him co-host.
Oh yeah,
with
I
you.
could have Goud
That'd
come
be
on and
fun.
co-host.
Anytime,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank
Anyways,
you, everybody.
everyone-
I hope we'll see you at convention
have a good.
tomorrow. 8 a.m. is our vote for school board seat delegates.
What are
Oh,
you
and
doing,
I'm running
Axel?
for national
Are you
delegate
crazy?
and watch for my endorsement today.
Yes, she's
I'm
gonna
really
wear
excited.
a glittery top hat. You guys have a good
She's
week.
got great shoes too.
Oh, always. Anyone who's seen her in person knows that she don't skip on the shoes.
I do love. My husband bought me a new pair of shoes last night and surprised me. They're so great.
I bought Katie a new Instapot.
Those are great too.
Yes.
But shoes are awesome.
Yeah.
And he's always so great at picking out shoes.
Well, that's
so.
good. Hey, good job, man. Everyone have a good week. Be safe. Humana,
See you
humana.
next week.
Yep. Well, I don't think so far we're doing a Wednesday. I don't think so. You
No,
never
we're
know what
taking a
pops
break,
up.
guys. We need a break after convention. And next up is Patriot Camp.
Mm.
So we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. Thanks again, Goud.